The battle had begun. The crescent blades of chakra rained down towards the group who halted their advance to deal with the incoming attacks. The way they were spread, only a few would hit, but they would cleave through those who couldn't defend. Asuma Sarutobi pulled out his trench knives and chakra flowed through them as blades formed and flowed smoothly as they severed the crescent fangs that targeted Chuji, Ino, Tenten, Sakura, and Sai. Kakashi and Suzuki's bloodline gave them an advantage in seeing the flow of the chakra, and they dodged while the Hyugas could block the fired blades with their advanced chakra control that allowed them to coat their extremities in a shroud of dense chakra, unlike Rock Lee and Might Guy, who avoided with a rough grace befitting their style. Water style, exploding water shock wave. Fuse clones bellowed as an enormous amount of water left their mouths and rushed towards the halted group as a climbing set of marathon waves that became a single colossal tsunami, while the original Fuse slammed her hand onto the ground for the second part she'd play, and a chakra web expanded as far as she could make it within reasonable range. Hidden art, insect gathering. Naruto pulled out a scroll from the bandolier and unraveled it towards the tidal wave that was ready to descend onto the ninja, but easily blocked considering they had at least 2 water users and a wind user. The ceiling array's center was marked with the kanji of ice, and he applied chakra. Unleash. Kunao with ice bombs rained towards the wave and discharged into blossoming crystalline figures that were swallowed and expanded. Ice formed and rolled with the waves, consuming more of the water into a frozen slurry that began to stagnate until it stood tall between the two factions. A wall of ice. Ino muttered as she looked at the massive obstacle. Chakra gathered into Naruto's blade and formed a dense shroud that consumed the blade. He swung the blade and drew a thick crescent arc in the air that flew towards the wall. Grand Destruction Strike. No, Niji alerted them. He's going to drop it on us. Asuma, Suzuki, target the portion directly above us, Kakashi said as he began his seals. The arc crashed into the middle portion and it exploded in a rain of heavy and large ice chunks that barreled towards the group that had clustered together. Fire style, Great Fireball / Wind style, Great Breakthrough. The two fireballs connected and ruptured as the wind fed them. The combined elements flared. The chunks turned from a solid state into a liquid state from the roaring flame that made the remaining portion leak a warm drizzle. The second volley. Naruto launched countless chains with spear tips from his body and angled them in an arc to rain from the sky and skewer the Konoha group using quantity over quality. The chains blocked a portion of the cloudy sky and cast a shadow as they rained down. Ino, look out. Chuji covered Ino's body with his enlarged arms as the chain ends deeply grazed him, with the armor of the Akamike deflecting them and the weakened but massive numbers of chains keeping him from being run through completely as blood became a fine mist that clung to the Yamanaka's face from her protector. Sai and Suzuki took to the air and rose above the wave of chains. Tenten pulled out a metal bow staff from her weapon scroll and batted away the incoming spear ends, while Yamato created a wooden half-dome to shelter the rest with the exception of Rock Lee and Might Guy, who were running on top of them and avoiding the death from above. Let's go, Lee, the older man told his apprentice. The time for the counterattack has come. Tenten put away her bow staff and tossed an exploding sphere to Sakura from a scroll. I need your arm strength. The Harino chambered her arms and took aim before letting out a battle cry and lobbing it towards the Jinchuriki pair, where it shot forward and exploded in a rain of sharp weaponry that the bun-haired young woman was fond of, while Naruto dissipated the original chains. New chains emerged from Naruto's body and tunneled through the ground to form a barrier around them until the downpour ended. Naruto dissipated the barrier and bit his thumb to wipe the blood over the seal on his arm, while Fu made hand seals. Summoning, the Jinchuriki pair summoned their respective aides. Next to Naruto was a ferret that was his equal in size with an orange headband that had twin tails that danced in the wind on his head. Its 10 claws were far more lethal and sharp thanks to its own training. Where its kin used weapons, it used its own body to strike down an enemy. Above Fu was a Hercules beetle that was thrice her height and 7 times as thick, with sharpened upper and lower horns that were designed to fight by picking up the enemy and slamming them down onto the ground or crushing them. You've summoned me, Uzumaki. The ferret looked out at the destruction before him. Unlike the time you called me and my family to the land of iron, I sense the stench of battle both past and present. Monk ferret, your target is the older bushy brows. Naruto pointed to the man. The man is Konoha's taijutsu expert. You want to fight, he'll give it to you. Don't hold back. We'll see. The ferret dashed on all fours towards the incoming man. Its claws flashed as they lashed towards the taijutsu expert's throat in order to rip it out and kill the man if he couldn't keep up. The claws were dodged, and the large ferret smirked at the challenge as their fight began. Hisama, Fu pointed towards the group in general. These people have invaded our home and our territory. Unacceptable. The beetle was enraged as most of its species was highly territorial. I'll join you and take out the flyers. Chumei's chakra formed a loose coat around Fu and was sucked into her cylinder to feed the beetles inside as she sprouted wings and took flight with the summoning. Be careful, FUU. Naruto yelled as he readied his chakra shield and sword to face the first of the Chunin, while the others came face to face with their beetle summoning. Impressive size, especially considering that males are normally smaller than females of that particular species. Shino noted as he saw the huge beetle land with a mighty crash to confront those who encroached onto its summoner's territory. Prepare yourselves, invaders, the beetle warned them before its horn came crashing towards them. For the honor of the Isle of Insects, I shall drive you out. With style, domed wall, a half shell of thick wood appeared to block the attack while Yamato went through hand seals for a secondary attack. Wooden spikes emerged from the ground and speared towards the beetle. Wood style, mallet, that island actually exists, Shino said with a slightly higher voice as the huge beetle batted away the wood spikes. I thought it was a fairy tale. We're being surrounded. Niji took a stance. Insects are beginning to swarm us. A multicolored tide of various insect life forms began to swallow the ground as they advanced towards the interlopers. The air was filled with the buzzing of bees and wasps that came at the beckoning of the Jinchuriki. Their target was the group at large, but more of them were directed towards Hinata. Hinata focused chakra outside her body and swept her hand to launch a barrage of chakra needles that split through the flying insects before she emitted a stream of chakra from her palms that became razor sharp. Her arms became a blur as they created a dome of strands that cut through anything that approached before she broke off into a sprint to confront the Kyuubi Jinchuriki with her cousin ahead of her. Asuma, Yamato, and I will handle the beetle and bugs, Kakashi told the others. Guy can handle the large ferret. Ino, treat Chuji. Everyone else will go and confront Naruto and Fu, but be careful. Let's go, Sai. Suzuki clung his summoning's backside using chakra in his feet while Sai drew a swarm of ink birds that went with him into the skies to confront the incoming airborne Jinchuriki who cloned herself. Akamaru, let's do this. Fang over Fang, the Inyazuka and his dog spiraled into the sky towards their target that was clashing with Lee. I shall support Kiba. Shino gave a small nod to Niji as he passed before going off to help his teammate. He would have to keep an eye on his cousin. With Naruto. Leaf Hurricane, a youthful voice cried out as he swung his foot towards the opponent. The blow made contact with a solid chakra shield and was halted as the flash of Naruto's blade closed in on the speed freak known as Rock Lee. The green beast in training skidded back as he avoided the blade, and Naruto went on the offensive. Lee was the fastest and first to arrive. The user of only the strong fist style was at a disadvantage when confronting an enemy who used a weapon of chakra. A good strike would cleave through the teen like a hot kunao through paper, but that was only if he could connect. Naruto pulled out a scroll and put chakra into it. Kunao rained forward and sought to skewer the bowl-cut warrior. He wasn't surprised that Lee avoided it all given it was a favorite tactic of his bun-haired teammate. Naruto tossed the scroll and stood at the ready. Lee opened the first gate and slipped under Naruto's guard with even more speed than before and delivered Leaf Rising Wind before bandages wrapped Naruto. He grabbed the Jinchuriki while he started to turn and fall. Naruto added extra chakra to the chakra chains that were already wrapped around his body and expanded it to a sphere to forcefully separate them. Let's see you dodge in mid-air. The sword was swung and crossed Lee's stomach before they landed upright and the bullcut clutched his stomach to avoid having his intestines from spilling out. Too shallow. Lee backed off when twin drills descended from above and ripped apart the space Naruto had once stood in by fragmenting the ground as a cloud of dust and debris obstructed their view. The twin drills pursued Naruto with vigor as he rolled behind a stone slab and fired a destruction strike to split them apart before slamming his hands into the ground creating chains underneath that burst out and speared into the nearby larger slabs of stones to use them like the end of flails in an attempt to crush the Inyazuka pair. On impact, the drills tore through them and continued towards the Jinchuriki. Drill through this. Naruto's free hand crafted a Rasengan and charged. When the first one approached his chest, he halted, slid his foot out to the side, and pivoted to slam it into the twister and nail one of the pair and pushed him into the other and then into a section of the ruins. There was silence for a few seconds until Kiba roared, "You bastard! You hurt Akamaru." Occupational hazard of a nin-dog. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly as he turned to go deal with Lee with the Rasengan in his hand and hoped Kiba was still as easy to anger at his partner's injury. He was right. Rotating Fang, the Inyazuka rotated along the horizontal axis and became a buzzsaw that charged at Naruto with rage-induced stupidity by attacking in a straight line, the easiest method to defend against. Naruto slid to the side before he slammed it into his side and launched him through the remains of what was probably a small home before dissipating the Rasengan and unraveling a purple scroll that he threw on the ground. Dynamic Naruto raised his bracer and activated the chakra shield to withstand the blow as Lee's legs came around after he wrapped his injuries in bandages while Kiba and his partner burst from the rubble they were buried in. He stomped on the center of the sealing scroll that had the kanji for poison on it and put chakra into it as the three of them were too close to escape. No screaming during sneak attacks. Purple gas filled the area around them in a plume as the Inyazuka, his companion, and the speed freak all fell to their knees, choking on the toxic fumes. I see why puppet users rely on this stuff for close-range fighters, but I doubt any of the others would have been hot-blooded enough to rush into a fight. Naruto raised his blade to kill them before the poison did when a voice called out, "Hang on." Tenten had pulled out a war fan and swept it horizontally with chakra. A gale of wind was directed at Naruto and blew the poison away while it blinded and pushed him off his feet until he anchored himself into the ground with 4 chains. He swung the blade towards the voice and let loose a destruction strike that severed the war fan and turned to finish the poison trio when a black cloud of swarming insects came at him. The blade went into the cloud only to be eaten since it was made of pure chakra. He bit back a swear as the cloud split into numerous tendrils and lashed at him with the full intention of devouring his reserves no matter how long it took. Damn, he noticed the shadow beneath his feet before he rolled away as his former teammate smashed into the ground and decimated the area in what could only be described as a localized earthquake before jumping back to the poison ninjas and Nindog while the chakra-eating bugs spiraled around them and formed a rotating dome. Hidden art, insect jar. The voice of the Aberame came from Shino standing next to the dome. Do you not think that you are going too far? It will take some time for the poison you gave them to be cleaned out by my comrades and Sakura. We were not expecting that from you, to be honest. I warned you all. Another destruction strike was unleashed and split the Aberame in two, and it melted into a cloud of insects that rushed at Naruto without pause. You of all people should understand how I feel, considering most people avoid your clan like the plague, but at least you have an entire clan to fall back on. Indeed, a second voice came from behind him to reveal what he was sure was another insect clone. We understand you very well, but we also approach things rationally and understand we are part of a balance. You must understand that you are crucial to the balance of power amongst the nations. Balance my ass. Naruto swiped his hand at the clone and released several Gale Shuriken, which were subsequently devoured to unleash another group of insects that chased him. If there was a damn balance, why have so many wars occurred since the first Hokage captured the Baijuyu? We can discuss the flaws in the system upon your return. The insects gathered from all around and began to close in on Naruto as he created a chakra chain barrier anchored to the ground, and Shino watched it be slowly devoured by the ravenous insects. Hidden art, insect sphere. They will drain your chakra until you are docile. Uzumaki custom, exploding dragon strike. Naruto unraveled a jutsu sealing scroll with the kanji for fire while dropping his large barrier inside the sphere of insects, and a dragonish being of fire emerged. It howled before erupting inside the cloud as Naruto's armor expanded while he watched the insects be consumed by the flames and fall to the ground as ashes. I question if your colony can spare any more effort to try that again. The heavens ignited as the Uzumaki's gaze ascended, catching sight of Sasuke's 3 grand fireballs descending upon him from above. Wind infusion, destruction strike. Naruto cleaved at the central oncoming fireball, simultaneously moving to confront the nearby Konoha weapon mistress as the wind strike fractured the orb, causing it to detonate in a fiery explosion that illuminated the sky when the other 2 orbs also ruptured. Sasuke simply rolled his eyes at the predictable maneuver before refocusing on Fu. With a deep inhale, the elite Jonin Asuma performed the snake hand sign. Wind style, dust storm. He released a stream of dust and forceful winds in a single exhalation toward the advancing swarm of insects. The wind-borne dust chafed against the small insects, rapidly wearing them down, with their remnants adding to the technique's power. He eradicated swarm after swarm without pause. Water style, tearing torrent. A swirling mass of water coalesced in Yamato's palm and was unleashed against the horde. It churned the insects until they were pulverized or submerged before he dodged the giant beetle's horn. Partial expansion. Chuji's enlarged arms hammered the side of the summoned creature, causing it to slide slightly while the cuts on his arms started to bleed again. Kakashi used the opening to hurl kunai with explosive notes beneath the beetle to flip it onto its side, conserving chakra for his impending fight with Naruto. Asuma. Now, fire-style Asuma exhaled a plume of chakra-infused gunpowder that billowed and enveloped the giant beetle as the others retreated, and he bit down on the flint held between his teeth. The resulting spark ignited the gunpowder, consuming the summoned beast in a merciless blaze. Burning ash. Arig. The summoned creature roared in agony and struggled to stand Hisama. 3 of Fu's clones fluttered over to the burning summon. Water style, wild water wave. They sprayed a torrent of water to douse the flames before the summon was consumed. Go back home, we'll handle the rest. My apologies. The summon weakly mumbled before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Ino launched 3 kunai that struck the clones of Fu before she hurried over to check on Chuji. Chuji, I told you to wait to fight until I had closed the injuries enough. Shaizun senpai. Sakura landed beside the medic Nin, who had just finished releasing a poison cloud to eliminate the insects swarming the area next to her, while carrying Akamaru and Lee on her shoulders with her superhuman strength. Meanwhile, on Guy's side, you're not so bad, human. The monk ferret complimented his opponent as his claws tried to tear him apart in a vicious display of the ferret's unique taijutsu. I haven't had a match like this in ages. Indeed, this is a most youthful battle. Guy agreed. However, I have a mission to complete. When your summoner is back in Konoha, we shall let our flames of youth burn even brighter. Guy adopted a fighting stance before accessing one of the 8 gates. With Naruto, stop. Tenten's chakra flowed into her staff, preparing to oppose Naruto's weapon, the chakra monk's spade. It was swung toward his head in a debilitating strike. We don't want to hurt you. Akatsuki is after you, and we want to keep you safe. Save. The spade end of the weapon descended in an arc and sliced through the bowstaff. You call a village that constantly tried to kill you safe? I'd rather take my chances with Akatsuki. Why? Tenten produced twin hook swords and channeled chakra through them as she went on the offensive again. She blocked the incoming crescent end of the weapon before catching it with the hook of the left blade, trapping it. Her right blade prepared to cut into his left shoulder. Because at least they have no more than a dozen members, compared to a village of thousands, and with them it isn't personal but business. They don't try to pawn off what happened in their pasts on their targets when they were children. Naruto's arm came up, and the bracer generated the chakra shield. His monk's spade disappeared and reformed into his blade. Honestly, we've taken out 2 already. We're doing fine. But Tenten was interrupted. Let me ask you, have you ever been so terrified that every day you'd be killed because of something you had no control over, with everyone hating you for a reason you didn't know? The blade was swung backward, and Naruto turned to deliver an overhead crescent that would cut through the weapon mistress from the right shoulder to the opposite hip. It collided with the chakra-reinforced hook sword on the right that rose to clash, and the blade shattered like fragile porcelain against the ground. The only benefit was that Naruto's blade was deflected enough that the cut only nicked her shoulder deep enough to draw blood and tear at some of the muscle. Have you ever been afraid that an explosive tag had been set right outside your door, so if you stepped outside you'd die before you were a ninja? The blade rose upward in an outward crescent, knocking back Tenten's left hook sword with enough force that her arm and fingers ached in pain. Have you ever been trapped inside a building as they set it on fire and watched it burn? He gripped the sword with both hands and slashed straight down. The girl twisted with her blade angled downward to redirect Naruto's. It shattered on impact with Naruto's blade as she narrowly avoided it until he angled it and forced it back up. The blade sliced through the top half of her blouse diagonally and drew enough blood that it created a crimson trail in the air. Have you ever been nearly sacrificed on your damn birthday because some of those crazies thought it would appease the souls of those who died the day I was born, only to be saved at the last minute by the old man? His foot shot out and hit the weapon user in the stomach, causing her to double over. You think I want to kill all of you because you're doing your jobs on Granny's orders? He swung the blade to take off her head as she fell into a roll and landed to the right. I just wanted to be left alone with you and my new home, away from those bastards' legacy. Tenten clutched the wound on her chest and reached for her large weapon scroll while stepping back. A chain shot out of his hand and trapped her leg while she tried to move. She fell to the ground as Naruto approached with his blade ready to decapitate her. I won't go back or let few be taken, even if I have to kill all of you to get the message across. The blade closed in on Tenten's neck. Tenten, a masculine voice briefly called out as the blade connected with the back of Neji Hyuga's arm, and his other hand was bracing the forearm. The arm was covered in a shroud of dense chakra to offset the Uzushio chakra blade, but not enough to stop it from drawing blood from a direct stop instead of deflecting it. You are in range of my divination. Neji batted away the sword as Naruto's chakra chain armor covered his body in a light translucent shroud. He felt his fingers striking the barrier and was forced back, but the chakra was dispersed on contact. The chakra didn't enter his body. Neji realized as Naruto expanded the armor to a sphere that pushed him away to an arm's length and infused wind chakra into his blade as he reduced the barrier to skin level again, and counter-coating stopped the injection of chakra. Your gentle fist is just that, Naruto said as his blade danced in the air while trying to take off the Jonin's head and limbs. The Hyuga spun into an 8 trigrams rotation to avoid being caught by the chains that came from under the ground but were detected by his eyes. It's too soft to get past my guard. Neji leaped back and grabbed Tenten to get her to a medic while a blur rushed in and confronted Naruto. Prepare yourself, Kuwabai. Hinata rushed forward. Your cousin couldn't harm me, so what makes you think you can? Naruto said a bit arrogantly, before she slipped into his guard with her hand covered in a chakra scalpel. It drew a circular arc around her low body as she spun while Naruto pulled back upon feeling a sensation from Hinata severing an artery and the fox patching it up and yelling at him to look down. There was a cut in his armor that drew in more chakra to repair itself. You were saying Kuwabai. I'm not the Kuwabai. Naruto prepared to cut down the young woman. With few, Sai's brush felt heavy as he struggled to draw up another flock of birds that would add to the countless numbers littering the skies above the ruins of old Uzushio to combat the clones of the Jinchuriki and her beetles. Fire style, Phoenix Flower. The last remaining Uchiha and Konoha spat out 8 fireballs that curved and darted towards the green-haired Jinchuriki with the ferret on her shoulder while leaving a distortion in the air from the heat. Water style, Water Trumpet. Hyu spun and fired the burst of water to extinguish flames as her clones charged to strike down the Uchiha from the front. Chidori Senbon. The lightning needles rained in a wide spread and filled the sky with the sight of exploding clones and lightning that connected and crafted a net that separated the clouds from the earth and darted through the majority of the clones and beetles. Where's the original? He yelled to himself more than anyone else when he noticed that she had vanished during the initial barrage. Uchiha. Sasuke looked up to see a water-slicing blade streaming lightning chakra coming for his head and raised his lightning-streaming blade to meet it head-on. Now, the Jinchuriki clone yelled and 2 blurs sped towards him from the left and right, aiming to take off his legs. Damn! Sasuke cut the hold on his summoning and flipped upwards as it flew off while slamming his foot into the few that restrained his blade and swinging it around in order to cut through the 2 others. As he fell to earth, he saw the original speeding towards him with the lightning-armed blade of water. Sharing on, it was all that allowed him to match her speed as they clashed blades during his descent. Her muscle movements gave away her intentions, and as he fell and his blade clashed against hers until she pushed him downwards with a kick and the clones flew towards him. Chidori, Sharp Spear. The spear of lighting shot towards the skyward Jinchuriki's clones who rolled to the side. His chakra poured into the spear and it branched out like a tree with sadistic limbs that skewered the incoming clones while the original dodged as he turned upright and whistled for his summoning to swoop beneath him as his clung to it with chakra into his feet once again. Fu halted her airborne chase with the ferret clinging to her for dear life and enjoying the ride when she saw the monk ferret get kicked across the lake and into the fallen tower in the center. Cousin! Pace yelled as his kin vanished in a puff of smoke while the green beast was on the hunt and heading towards Naruto. Suddenly Fu found wooden bindings coming as she twisted and moved before they could bind her. She looked down to see the wood user's hand had become the wooden restraints before they curved and coiled to entrap her even as she rose into the sky. Pace, we're going to a relay point. Cover your eyes and get ready to summon Naruto, she told the ferret as she summoned another clone and dispelled it to share the plan with the other clones who began to channel chakra into their lungs and exhaled the shining scale powder over the battlefield while she flew off. In the distance Orochimaru chuckled at the sight of explosion and destruction being unleashed as the sky and the ground were filled with the stench and sound of battle. How nostalgic. It would appear that they are putting up an excellent fight against Konoha so far. Kabuto tilted his glasses while fingering a scroll that held his customized corpses. But that's only until the elite Jonin get involved. Well said, Kabuto. Orochimaru looked over to his crystal user who looked at the scene impassively. Remember Gurren, kill the Nanabe. If you do I'll reward you by letting you see the boy again with impure world resurrection. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. The young woman responded. On the other side Itachi looked at the sight of the battle in the distance, in particular his brother taking to the skies and doing combat with the Nanabe Jinchuriki's clones. The sight of lightning crackling in the air matched the ever-darkening skies that signaled the beginning of a thunderstorm. He glanced over to where his partner was, only to see him gone. Of course. Itachi muttered stoically as he prepared to complete his mission, and maybe greet his brother to see if his hatred was still strong. Back with Naruto, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't banking on the fact that they wouldn't try to kill me, but she's not holding back. Naruto put together as he backed away and fired gale needles to riddle the Hyuga with. If one party was trying to kill while the other has to capture alive, the one aiming to kill has the advantage. Why do you hate me so much you tried to kill Fu? At least with Sakura I could understand it was because of her being a fangirl, and the others are doing their job, but what about you? Who did you lose to the attack to make you loathe me so much you'd risk losing everything on killing me? What you stole from me wasn't a person. Chakra needles met the gale needles and struck them perfectly with precision achieved thanks to the Byakugan. The young woman closed in and he brought down the blade only to watch as it was avoided with a half step. Her first hand came down over his wrists and the other was sent towards his heart. Then what the hell did I ever do to you? He forced the Hyuga to jump back as chains erupted from his body to spear through her as she escaped them with a few gashes on her arms before darting forward. I barely even talked to you and even went so far as to defeat your cousin for you. It was only because of you that I was hurt in the first place. Twin chakra scalpel shrouded hands danced in a fluid circular motion that began nicking at the armor as the chakra blade flowed swiftly with experience that was earned through hard work, and their owners began a contest of styles. The entire environment became their arena as the two went at each other. You just wanted to look better and used me to do so. Naruto somersaulted over the girl and swung the blade to split her skull as she pulled back, and he fell into a roll before he stood again. That makes no sense. I encouraged you. I didn't expect him to try to kill you. Manipulator. Deceiver. The Hyuga crouched, sweeping at his legs. He leapt, spinning to land parallel to the ground on the shattered remnants of a stone pillar 4 times his height. His blade arched upward toward the girl's neck, a strike she narrowly dodged by applying chakra to her feet and bending her flexible body back deeply. Pay for your sins. You make it sound like I was a bad ex-boyfriend. Naruto vaulted higher up the pillar and unleashed a destruction strikedown. You've mocked me for the last time. She sliced through the attack, roaring as she climbed the pillar to launch a 2-finger gentle fist thrust at his head, intending to obliterate his higher brain functions before striking his heart. The Uzashio blade descended, meeting her chakra-shrouded hand, and the blade was sliced in two. This was the chasm in chakra control between them. Less than 10 years versus more than a decade of mastery and manipulation. The addition of chakra scalpels only compounded the threat of her sharpened chakra. I have no idea what you're even talking about. Naruto fed a bit of chakra into a body storage seal, and a second rod materialized. He swung it in a diagonal upward arc while reforming the blade. Nor do I even care at this point. A cerulean arc sliced through the air as a second blade cleaved through the Hyuga's body in her moment of surprise, only for her to be replaced by a substitution jutsu, leaving her sliced jacket behind. Naruto reversed his grip on the blade, jamming it under his arm to stab behind him, guessing where she would reappear. The Hyuga twisted, and the blade cut her shirt around her midsection as she released her chakra hold on the vertical surface. Her chakra scalpel-covered left hand swept toward his neck, the jugular vein, as she fell, attempting to sever it. Naruto's body moved to evade the strike. He brought his arm up in an arc, the butt end of the second seal rod slamming into her hand to deflect it while he reformed the blade on the first rod and swung it toward her head. It drew blood, cutting into her forehead and taking off a lock of her hair, a testament to her dexterity as she landed. Damn her flexibility. Naruto cursed to himself. I'll have to take this up a notch. Naruto released his hold on the pillar and slammed the ends of the seal rods together, joining them to create a dual-blade sword. He twirled it as he fell, carving through the air toward the Hyuga, who avoided him by leaping back. Naruto charged. The blades danced as Naruto spun and swiped at the Hyuga's legs to cut them out from under her, but she avoided him with a backflip. They came around again to take off her head but were ducked under. The final strike came as he spun, swiping at her chest, and she took a step back. Naruto's foot was cloaked in wind chakra as he used the rotation to unleash a backside gale kick. It connected with the Hyuga's abdomen, and she spat a mouthful of blood that stained her black shirt before he followed with a slash to her head, which was narrowly blocked by her chakra-coated palms. Naruto let go with one hand, using the opening and momentum to strike her face with a gale fist as the Hyuga shielded with her free arm, shrouded in chakra. She flew into another unstable stone slab, crashing through it in a shower of stone and dust. He lunged forward, separating the chakra blades as he swooped in to finish her. It's over. Twin blades descended upon the fallen kunoichi, and blood flew into the air in a fine mist that spattered against his chakra armor. Damn, you, a strained voice came out. Kiba Inyazuka's blood dripped from the chakra blades as he held Hinata's unconscious body in his arms, a huge gash on both the left and right sides of his back. His body trembled as Naruto's blades, showing no hesitation, came back around streaming wind chakra to kill the two clan heirs' severe leaf hurricane. Naruto was sent flying before he even registered what had happened. Something fast and hard hit him, sending him tumbling through several pieces of rubble. Several of his ribs were shattered on impact, and he could feel the pain exploding through his body. He rolled on the ground before struggling to his feet, coughing up blood. His armor had been destroyed by the unseen blunt force of the blow. Even with his accelerated healing, the damage would take minutes to properly mend as he stood once more. Sensing a wave of terror from the front, he swung his blades, only for the form of Might Guy to appear above the point where they intersected. The man had driven off his summoning and come to complete his mission. Naruto spun, his blades flashing as they drew intersecting arcs, cutting through the space of the enemy in front of him, finding no resistance. Naruto's legs were taken out from under him before he could react, and he was launched into the air. Leaf rising wind. The second strike from below sent him even higher. Naruto's body ached from the blows that spread like wildfire within him, and he could no longer defend himself. Your flames of youth are out of control, and you have gone too far, so let us end this before someone gets burned. A voice came from behind Uzumaki, and he found the taijutsu monster beneath him using leaf dancing shadow. It was followed by a powerful backfist, and Naruto was sent flying into the lake across Old Uzashio, a pillar of water rising up on impact that was visible all over. Gloop. Naruto spat up blood as he pulled himself to the surface using the water walking exercise. The blood was diluted in the water and vanished as it spread out. His fox features were far more pronounced, his eyes red with slits. He had no illusions that he would survive past this point without accessing Kurama's chakra for both power and healing. He was covered in a coat of crimson chakra that had yet to form a cloak and tail when he heard the sound of air parting as the green beast came for him. Naruto prepared to fight the monster when an orange flash teleported him away before the green beast struck again. Where did Higai notice a flare shining in the air from Kakashi's location? Time to regroup. The green beast took off to join the others. With Naruto, Naruto looked around on edge, his blades at the ready until Fu called to him. Easy, Naruto, Fu whispered as she looked at her lover's broken form. His face was badly swollen where the backhand had struck him, sweat beaded his brow while the rest of him was soaked, and blood trailed from his lips. I had pace summon you once I saw that man in green coming for you. Phew, you're okay. He fell to his knees, lightly covering the spot where the green beast had first struck. That guy is a monster, the armor in that first blow, honestly, he can't be human with just taijutsu. Let me see, now. Phew grabbed his shirt and lifted it, revealing a bluish-purple mass of skin with bits of sharp white sticking out. Phew's pupils became compounded, glowing a menacing green. She let out a low snarl that was more demonic than anything, but then Naruto placed his hand on her cheek. It's fine. Naruto managed a strained smile with his crimson eyes and slitted pupils. Kurama's working on it, and he's the fastest when it comes to healing. It'll be mended in a few minutes, tops. What about you? They haven't really touched me yet. She lightly stroked his whisker marks in a show of affection. The wood user is going to be troubled, though. A relative of Granny's, he hinted at the fact that only the Senju should have that ability. Maybe. Phew shrugged. Well, the only good thing is that the info I had on everyone I was grouped with was mostly accurate. The Hyugas still fight close ranged and lack normal jutsu or any elements. Shino uses bugs that consume chakra but burn easily. Sakura seems to have taken a backseat to attacking and is instead healing the fallen. Kiba is still hot-headed, and for some reason Hinata seems to hate me, and by extension you avoid her unless you can nail her from a distance with a mid-ranged attack. Make damn sure. It's fatal. Shouldn't we try to take a hostage? No, Naruto told her coldly. We'd have to waste effort keeping them alive for negotiations, and as sad as it is, my worth as a Jinchuriki is far greater than anyone else in the village. Otherwise, Dad wouldn't have sealed Kurama inside me and sacrificed himself to the Shinigami. I'm surprised, Kit, Kurama chimed in. You have basically given those you once considered allies a death sentence. I bear most of them no ill will, but I have the right to defend myself with few, and they won't stop coming after me until their numbers are too low or Granny calls them off. Naruto, it isn't personal, I'd rather they lived and didn't come after me or discovered this place, but I won't hold back, there's too much at stake. Naruto, Fu snapped him out of his mental conversation. One of the surviving little ones told me they've all gathered in one of the wood users' domes near the trap. Alright, Naruto walked forward as Kurama was nearly halfway finished healing his injuries. Let's bury them and pick off the medics first. Hold on until you're completely healed. Fu created a clone and gave Pace to her. Pace, I want you to stay with the clone and move to the second spot. The Uchiha probably figured out that only the original would have you, and we can't risk a disadvantage. Fu gave Naruto a quick glance. We only came to check out the island for 2 weeks, and this happens. I warned you what my luck was like when I was on missions for them. He shrugged before narrowing his eyes. You knew what you were getting into. Still, I don't want to force you any further, so Naruto, if you tell me to leave or activate that array before I'm no longer able to fight, I will never forgive you and you will never touch me again. She warned him. Me or Kunna? Checkmate. Kurama snorted. You are as whipped as your father, Kit. In fact, have her grow out her hair and dye it to match your mother's just for kicks. With the Konoha group damage report, Kakashi ordered. Well, Lee has a deep cut across his stomach and was poisoned along with Akamaru, who has a few broken ribs from the Raiznan, when he stupidly decided to try an attack after getting his stomach cut open. Sakura held back the desire to hit the boy for his actions while treating him. Smacking him around could come later. Indeed, Lee, that was an incredibly reckless thing for you to do. Guy made himself known. Fighting a challenge is all well and good, but killing yourself like that was simply foolish. You shall atone with, we can get into punishments later, Kakashi stated factually. Continue, Sakura. Sakura sighed. Kiba has it worse since he pushed himself and has damage to his trapezius and latissimus dorsi muscles, his ribs are broken, and he's been poisoned the worst because he moved around more to intercept Naruto and didn't let Shino's bugs drain the majority of it. He won't be fighting for weeks without the risk of tearing the muscles and recovering from the residual poison even after he goes to the hospital. Is Kiba bit back a grunt and looked at Hinata with concern while Shizun worked on him. Is Hinata okay? I can still fight, Hinata said firmly. These injuries are nothing. Had Kiba not reached you in time, they would have been quite fatal, Shino stated coldly before turning to Shizun. His clan style relies heavily on those particular muscles considering how they fight. I am grateful you are giving him your utmost attention. It's my fault for not being able to convince Naruto-kun. Shizun shook her head and wiped away a tear. Hinata-chan still has a nasty bruise on her face along with minor lacerations on her body and her arm's ulna bone was cracked, plus that blow to her abdomen did some damage as well. But she can still fight with the quick attention I gave her after I healed Tenten-chan enough for Ino-chan to follow up. It was the Kyuubi's fault, all of it. Hinata repeated in her head like a mantra among the second voice, but she could still appreciate what he did. Thank you, Kiba-kun. Anything for you, Hinata, Kiba said with a smile, until Akamaru made a soft groan that called him whipped. He wisely chose not to translate that. Naruto isn't doing this because he holds anything against us. Tenten grunted. I think he's honestly terrified of returning to the village because of his past, or worse, what the village would do with Fu. Can Chuji and Tenten still fight? Shikamaru asked while still bound and in the barrier next to them. Yeah, Ino told her teammate and Chuji nodded. Chuji had some deep lacerations that I've mended and Tenten was cut across the shoulder and chest somewhat deeply, but she'll be fine as long as she doesn't move around too much and open the wounds again. Did anyone manage to do any actual damage to Naruto and Fu? I am fairly certain several of his ribs might have been broken, and my back fist with the blow to the water would have made a normal person unable to fight for some time. Guy told them. I admit I was a bit angry that my students were in such conditions, but I held back, and considering his fox-like features became more defined at the moment before he vanished, he probably has recovered from them by now. Sai and I couldn't hit the original, she's too fast or vanishes after she blinds us when things go bad. Not to mention it takes too long to clear out those clones of hers on our own. We'll have to go at it differently than before. Shikamaru closed his eyes and visualized himself in his thinking pose since his arms were bound. Naruto and Fu as Jinchuriki have a ton of chakra to use, and at this point, neither has even used a tail to bat around the Chunin. Naruto hits harder than Fu, but she's faster and using more diversionary tactics. We're losing because we're fighting on their terms and at their pace, that's why they used the wave tactics and summonings from before. How long until we're out of this barrier? Irika and I think we have the ceiling barrier arrangement figured out and can short it out, but with only one hand free it'll take a few more minutes, Jiraiya said somberly. Alright, Shikamaru opened his eyes slowly. I have a plan, but we're going to have to hit them both hard to the extent it would kill a normal person. Shikatsuji started, but Shikamaru cut him off. I don't like it either, but we've got our orders. Shikamaru looked at his injured comrades before steeling himself. The two of them will kill the majority of us at the rate they're going. Tsunade-sama told us ahead of time they wouldn't hold back, and they haven't. Any of us who aren't elite jounin would be killed if we tried to face them alone. The Chuyunin, along with Niji, can't attack Naruto on their own. He knows how we fight from past experience, and even though our skills have improved, the core techniques remain the same. What should we do, Shika? Chuji asked. Shikamaru quickly and thoroughly outlined his strategy for dealing with the Jinhyuriki before the second fight began. However, we can't finish this until all three of us are out of this barrier. I'd suggest we move faster. Niji's eyes were active as he spotted the approaching clones. Clones are coming from above. I can't tell if the original is mixed in with the group, but I'd say our rest period is over. Hugh flew above the group and took out one of the scrolls Naruto had given her earlier. Her clones performed hand signs and began blasting the area with lightning jutsu, hoping for a specific reaction. Yamato sealed the other side of the large half-domed shell, including those trapped within the barrier, and slammed his hands onto the ground. With spikes shot from around the dome into the sky, roughly turning to attempt a mild puncture of the original carrying the scroll and the clones. The original rose higher while the clones scattered, realizing what was coming too late. Another attack is heading towards the dome and spikes it's laced with wind chakra. Hinata warned the group. The incoming massive wind chakra was a single large Grand Gale shuriken that spun like a saw, cutting through the air and severing the top half of the dome and all the wooden spikes used to target Fu. Fu unrolled the scroll, which had the kanji 4 blast, and let the explosive tag balls stored inside fall toward the entire mass. Damn it! Shikamaru swore. They're going to bury us. Tenten unrolled a scroll and channeled chakra into it as the wood began to collapse on them. Summoning the sound of crashing wood and explosions drowned out her voice as a cloud of dust rose into the air. Fu fluttered around it to see if the bombardment had been successful. The blanket covering the site began to thin, revealing a metal shell covering the group inside. Iron protective wall. Tenten finished. Fu bit her lip and prepared to make more clones, while inside the dome, everyone was getting ready for a counterattack. Where's Naruto? Kakashi asked. He's standing by the fallen tower in the middle of the lake. On the water, Niji's brow furrowed. There's another chakra source approaching him, one that might be even bigger than Naruto's. Can you see a sword-like object infused with chakra? Jiraiya asked. Yes, Niji replied. Then we don't have much time. Jiraiya worked faster on the seal array. It's most likely the same Akatsuki member who came after Naruto a few years ago, Kisame of the Hidden Mist, but that also means his partner is here. Itaki, Suzuki muttered. I can't believe his luck is still this bad when it comes to missions, even when he's up against us. Change of plans, then, Shikamaru sighed. Guy-sensei. With Naruto, that should have taken care of at least a few of them, but just to be safe. Naruto prepared to pull out one of his remaining scrolls, as only the dust cloud was visible from his position, when he heard footsteps on the water behind him. He was still in the distance, so it had to be another threat. Who's there? He swung the chakra blades, now fully coated in wind chakra, at the approaching figure, ready to draw a white cross in the air. Chains had already started wrapping his body to rebuild his armor. The blades would eliminate the threat of the incoming unknown factor. Upon impact, the blades were stopped by a spiky sword, and the damn things were consumed by it. It's been too long, brat. A grin revealed shark-like teeth. God damn it, Akatsuki is joining the party now? Naruto looked at his now missing blades. Oh come on. First there was Shino, then the Hyuga, and now you? You may have relied on it too much. Kisame chided him as he backed away. I hope you can still give me a good fight. I'll invest in a solid sword, maybe get a replica of the original from the storage center since it's an antique, but for now. Naruto's pupils became slits and turned red as he channeled chakra into the storage seals on his body and took out the seal rods before pulling out the triple blade scythe he borrowed from Haiden. Let's get to it. They charged. Kisame began the attack by bringing his legendary sword down at a diagonal angle to shred the Jinhyuriki, an attack Naruto avoided by sidestepping and lowering his head. Kisame had to take a step back when the scythe's blades came down toward his head before he twisted and swung the sword to grate it across the Uzumaki's face. The sword met his bracer and the chakra shield. The sword devoured the chakra of the shield but grated against the metal, creating sparks as it passed. The blade giggled with an unholy delight as it consumed the chakra. Naruto leaped back and threw the scythe at the missing nin, who knocked it away and advanced on the Jinhyuriki. Naruto tugged on the chakra chain attached to the bottom of the scythe and brought it around a slice through Kisame's neck, only for the man to duck and run Samehada against his chakra chain armor. It devoured the armor and shredded through his clothes to get to the skin beneath. Naruto gritted his teeth as the scythe returned to his hand and swiped it at the man's head, expecting it to be dodged, while channeling wind chakra into his foot. When the scythe passed overhead, he released it with the chain attached, and his foot came up and slammed against the Akatsuki member's jaw, sending him spiraling into the fallen tower to their left. Ha ha! Kisame laughed as he wiped the blood from his lip while freeing himself from the rubble. He managed to duck as the scythe, which had been released before the attack, circled around thanks to the extended chain. Now that's more like it. He can only devour chakra if the sword has physical contact with it. Naruto guessed as the scythe returned to his right hand and he generated a grand raise-non in his left, while Kurama patched up the shredded skin before charging. His physical strength is enormous. Kisame swung Samehada horizontally while Naruto halted his charge and swung the scythe with a twist as the living sword passed by his head before attempting to hit the demon shark with the grand raise-non. Kisame's knee came up and slammed him in the stomach, making the Jinchuriki lurch while the spiraling sphere dissipated. Then his elbow came down and sent Naruto beneath the surface of the water. He went to follow up, but the sound of slicing wind from the scythe made him swing his blade and meet it head-on. The scythe's blades were shattered as Naruto shot out of the water and slammed a gale fist into his face, sending him into a spin. I like that scythe. I spent hours in iron learning to use that thing. Kisame got himself together and went at him again, swinging Samehada at an angle that the Jinchuriki avoided by shifting his left foot forward at a 45-degree angle and rotating on it while ducking. Naruto's wind chakra-covered fist met the man's stomach to make him bend over, while his wind chakra-covered foot came around from behind in a back axe kick to smash the back of his skull with his heel, and was caught by Kisame's hand. The Sharkman tightened his grip and with a quick motion, he lifted the Jinchuriki up and slammed him onto the surface of the water while Samehada descended. It was blocked by the shaft of the broken scythe and sent Naruto underwater from the sheer force again. Chains from Uzumaki's body tried to spear through the Sharkman, and he tanked them before he grabbed them and pulled Naruto up in one violent tug, then slammed him into the ground. The tower was on before Naruto dissipated the chains. Well, Naruto winced as he felt his body ache. That didn't work. So what are you going to do with Haiden's scythe, now that it's bladeless? Kisame chuckled on the water. Are you going to run? To use my original monk spade, I was trained in Bajutsu. Naruto spun the bladeless weapon around his hands and then his body as if they were one. He lost a scythe and blade weapon but gained a metal staff to bludgeon the Sharkman with, before he used chakra flow to enhance its strength with wind chakra and exhaled loudly. Bring it. I like you, kid, he honestly told him as they both charged and clashed again on top of the water. The makeshift bow staff was also a spear. He sharpened the chakra tips as he thrust forward to pierce the Sharkman's skull. It grazed his head as it passed before Kisame bit down with his shark-like teeth and completely shattered the section, shortening the weapon before slamming Naruto with a kick that sent him skimming on the water until he rolled and was on his feet. He noticed the missing nin performing a series of hand seals and reached for a scroll on his bandolier. Water style, water shark bullet. Water became the avatar of a shark and was sent forward towards the Jinchuriki, who took out a scroll. Uzumaki custom, water seal. The scroll drank the attack and swallowed the jutsu whole to be used later. The Sharkman was approaching from above after a leap and had his blade ready, got Y maximum entry, when a green blur intercepted him, and they both flew through the tower and onto the other side of Old Uzushio, and possibly the island. The green beast had been unleashed to deal with the demon shark. Naruto blinked for a few seconds before shrugging. Never look a gift ferret in the mouth. Let the two of them kill each other. Naruto tossed the broken scythe away and resummoned his seal rods and prepared to go help Q when he heard the hum of flowing chakra and reformed his blades. They met with a similar element before they were deflected by the chronic smoker and former ninja monk. Shall we catch up for a bit, Naruto-kun? Asuma Sarutobi appeared with his trench knives ready and using wind chakra as well. Naruto held fast and swung his blades again. The old man in Konoha will never forgive me for killing you, but you've left me no choice. The sound of clashing chakra was heard as two trench knives, overflowing with experience, deflected his strike. With few, let it rip. Tenten pulled the ripcord of her shuriken launcher, and the massive shuriken was released into the air, where it tore through groups of clones as if they were nothing but targets. She unrolled her massive scroll as it flew over the battlefield from a toss and rained down white streaks of destruction. Manipulated tools, heavenly chain of destruction. Super beast imitation scroll, flight. Sai conjured up countless birds once again that darted into the clones without pause before drawing his tanto and cleaving through the ones approaching him low on the ground. Burn! Suzuki let loose a blaze that charred everything in his path, including beetles and clones alike, with his eyes locked onto the next targets. He shrouded his hands in lightning chakra, and Chidori Senbon flew and nailed every single one without a moment's pause. Tenten, Suzuki, Sai, you three can destroy the greatest amount of clones at once because of your attacks. Keep up the assault and destroy as many as you can to get her to feel the pressure, were the Nara's instructions to the trio. Damn, Hugh swore as her clones and beetles were taken out with unexpected speed from the repeated assaults with the aid of the bun-haired girl and the two grounded flyers. The trio attacked from the ground instead of the sky since they only had to focus on attacks from above rather than trying to keep up with her. They could be dealt with eventually, but first came the medics and the iron shell being protected by the Jounin. Her clones and insects were blocked by wooden structures and konoha whenever the Hyuga detected them entering his current range of vision and directed the others. She prepared to unleash a lightning jutsu on the troublesome eye user when he suddenly spotted her making hand seals beyond his previous range and turned to thrust his palm towards her. She was pushed by something and sent into a spiral. Naruto said they fought at close range. Few thought as the others began to focus their attacks on her. She unrolled a scroll and fired a barrage of explosive tagged konoha of her own that only the Hyuga, with his 8 trigrams rotation, defended against. Niji, if Naruto is relying on the fact that Hyuga use close combat, then he's relayed that information to few. You'll help keep the medics safe with Asuma, Kakashi, Guy, and Yamato, since if we lose them, we've effectively lost the battle. That's why medics are normally targeted first in any incursion. Look for an opening when as many of the clones have been eliminated and blast the original with your 8 trigram sky palm to make her doubt the information she has. Niji recalled the Nara's orders. The smoke cleared to reveal the bodies of the other Jounin, as wood? Yamato-san, you're an unknown factor to those two, and your wood style can be a pain for both of them. While she probably knows Naruto can deal with the Chunin, if Fu sees you or any of the other Jounin missing, she'll most likely figure out you're going after Naruto and use that ferret to take him away again. Use wood clones and wood style transformation to make it appear like you and the other Jounin are defending the medics. Shit! Fu swore as she dodged another barrage of Chidori Senbon. If those weren't the Jounin, that means they're going after Naruto again. We need to regroup. Fu gathered chakra into her mouth once again and exhaled the blinding breath. Creating a final group of shadow clones, she left them in place while she retracted her wings and snuck toward the position that the clone she left with paste decided on before dissipating. She figured they'd never pay attention to the ground when she normally took to the skies. She was unaware she was being spied on by a set of white eyes that belonged to a Chunin and her accomplices. Hinata, you stay out of the battle and keep a lookout in case she makes a break for it using that blinding technique. It obscures regular vision, but you can see chakra with your eyes closed and won't be affected by it. Take Chuji and Shino with you and wait until she's with the ferret until you strike. As soon as we're free, I'll go to help capture her with Irika-sensei. We'll use her as a negotiation point to get Naruto under control in a worst-case scenario. Hinata's face was marred by a dark smile as the whispers in her mind grew louder. If she couldn't end Naruto's life first, she would dismantle his entire world. With Sasuke, he had to take a moment to rest as they finished off the remaining clones and the real few vanished. We did it! Irika exclaimed as the barrier and chains disappeared, freeing the trapped group who were now ready to re-enter the battlefield. They emerged from the iron shell that had protected them. What a drag! Shikamaru stretched and rolled his arms before turning to the 3 Chunin. So, how did it go? According to plan, Sasuke replied. Niji just spotted Hinata's group leading to capture Fu. Yamato and Kakashi are in their positions, and Asuma should be engaging Naruto while Guy handles the other Akatsuki member. Alright, Jiraiya handed Shikamaru a seal tag. I'll head to where Naruto will be. Use that to suppress her demonic chakra. Got it, Shikamaru nodded before he and Irika took off in one direction and Jiraiya in the other. Sasuke was about to go check on the injured when a flock of crows appeared and consumed him into a dark realm that he assumed was a genjutsu, until his brother appeared. Hello, little brother. Itachi said in a flat tone. Your hatred, don't lecture me about hatred, Itachi. Sasuke roared, whether it was a genjutsu or not. I know what really happened that night. Do you have any idea how badly you screwed everything up? With Naruto, he swung the chakra blades, now completely covered in wind chakra, at the elite Jounin. Down and across, then switching to a diagonal slash, the blades were unleashed. They collided with the former Fire Guardian ninja's trench knives and were deflected. The 4 chakra blades clashed on the water, with Naruto being pushed back by the older man with every move. Flying swallow, my personal version of chakra flow, Asuma said with a cold voice as his blade sliced through Naruto's with little resistance. Wind against wind, the more precise and refined one will triumph and cut through any defense. Brace yourself, Naruto. Naruto raised both of his bracers and generated chakra shields to protect himself as Asuma Saratobi's right chakra blade drew a horizontal line in the air across Naruto's defenses, and he paused for a brief moment as blood sprayed out. The chakra shields, the bracers behind them, and the defensive seals on them were sliced cleanly through to the flesh underneath. Chakra blade, straight line. The older Jounin murmured before delivering a merciless kick to the younger chakra weapon user, knocking him back. Naruto's arms bled as the remnants of his bracers fell into the water and were lost, while the gashes on his arms healed. The difference in skill was now clear. Yet, Rurei Aoega. Naruto charged forward with his blades, only to have them blocked as he swung. He twisted and tried to slip into the man's guard, but the longer blades were intercepted at every turn. Give up, Naruto. The older man's blades severed the Jinhyura keys once again. I won't go back, he told him as he reformed the blades and swung them again. I won't let you take Fu to that place. What happened to your dream of being Hokage? I only wanted the hat so I could earn everyone's respect. Naruto answered as his right blade failed to take off his grandfather figure's son's head. I trained like crazy, I fought for my village and my comrades, and what did I get from the village? What do I have to show for my efforts? I learned more in 4 years away from there than I did living there. Dad would have wanted. Asuma was interrupted by the blades trying to sever his limbs. The old man would have wanted me to be happy. Naruto stepped back to avoid the incoming right chakra blade, but Asuma extended it and it cut into his flesh before Naruto brought his foot up to kick the man, but missed as he hopped back. He would have wanted the village to accept me and tried his best before the snake bastard killed him, but the villagers spat on both his wishes and my father's. Naruto, are you going to let your hatred of the village blind you? He stopped moving while getting into a combat stance. The majority who wronged you were executed by Dad. Will you turn your hatred of the past onto the innocent? Once the physical abuse stopped, they moved on to emotional, financial, social. Naruto took a stance while his blades hummed with wind chakra. Once the main ones died, their friends and families continued to drown in their hatred and drag me into the depths. How long could I have stayed there and kept enduring all of that before I snapped and lost my sanity like Gaara did? The wind howled and thunder roared as Naruto prepared to charge and gave the old man's son his final answer. I don't want revenge on Konoha since it would be spitting on the old man's wish. I keep telling myself that it would serve no purpose now in order to control the hatred. The past cannot be changed, I know that, so I look to the future for a new dream with the women I love and who accepted me, a small village of peace for those who could escape otherwise. It doesn't have to be a village born and bathed in the blood of war like Konoha, IWA, or the others, and you're standing in the way of that. The sound of chakra blades clashing against each other filled their battlefield on the water as they stopped talking and dove into the rhythm of battle. The blades became lingering trails under the ever-darkening skies. Ripples formed beneath them as they stepped lightly and their blades sang the chord of battle when they clashed, and sparks of chakra flew off. You fight while a strong blow from the right blade deflected Naruto's blades into the air and Asuma's left chakra blade sliced through the right seal rod below where his blades were formed and locked into shape. Asuma's right came around as Naruto's flipped the end over to the other seal tip and it was cut through as well. But I've been at this for far too long. The difference between them reared its head once again, with Asuma at the advantage. Naruto had stamina and healing that kept him fighting, but Asuma had experience that surpassed Naruto's life in general. Naruto discarded the right seal rod. It was useless at this point. Chains erupted from his body, but the vital strikes were dodged and deflected even as they came around, with only a few cuts and gashes on his expendable limbs to show for it until the man closed the gap once again. He forced Naruto onto the defensive as the remaining blade shifted and became the monk's spade again, and Naruto took up a stance he adopted from the Wind Temple before his departure. A monk's spade. Asuma ducked under the crescent end as it passed by and twirled before the spade came flying forward and was knocked upwards by his knives. What temple did you study under? Naruto said nothing as he leaped back and shot the crescent end out using a chakra chain, only to have it batted away. Well, Chiriku would have said something if it were the fire temple, but your banishment included all of the land of fire. The older man tossed the knives at Naruto who twisted to avoid them. Plus with all the commotion in the land of wind, it must have been the wind temple. Naruto stopped responding so he could focus on the fight and unrolled the water seal scroll and prepared to unleash the contents when a blur tore past and cut the scroll in half. Asuma's knives had been controlled by using wind style, Jade Hurricane, and returned to his hands as Naruto discarded the scroll. I was with the fire temple and learned their techniques including how to use a special type of chakra. I was told that all temples had a similar skill but I've noticed you haven't used yours. Asuma closed in and slashed across his armor to cut through the scroll bandolier. It was claimed by the lake as Naruto was pushed back though he kept the important scrolls in a body seal anyway, and those were expensive but easily replaced. Not to mention you haven't reined in your emotions. You didn't complete your training in the temple, did you? Naruto thrust the spade end of the weapon out towards the man's chest to slip it between his ribcage in an attempt to claim his heart. It was deflected as Asuma's foot shot back at an angle, and he pivoted on it while bringing his first trench knife down to parry. The blade of the second one extended and split the seal rod. The veins on Naruto's head became visible as he threw the broken seal rod pieces at the man and formed a new blade like the one he showed Gaara using his right hand as the body and the bone of the blade. He turned on his foot and tried to slash from the side, but the left trench knife caught the blade and Asuma pushed forward and brought the other knife around, which forced Naruto to dodge. Naruto ducked and spun while sweeping the blade at the older man's chest. His blade nicked the man's flak jacket as he stepped back and swung his right knife down and cut near the left shoulder blade on Naruto's back, and blood spattered in the water before the wound was closed. The two warriors separated to take an assessment of their opponent as their breaths stilled. Naruto's injuries closed easily, but with the seal rods gone, maintaining the blades without it became much harder. Asuma grew more winded as well, but he could still go for another few minutes. It's time we ended this. The older man took a stance with his left hand in the form of a half ram and his palm extended parallel to the ground. The spirit of a deity surrounded him in a protective embrace. Reigo the thousand-hand Kanon became demonic and unleashed its wrath upon the Jinhyura Ki. The force of the fist struck hard at the expanded armor barrier and cracked it under the sheer pressure and number of his strikes. Thousand Hand Strike. Naruto's barrier weathered the intense blows and increasingly drained his chakra as he repaired it before the subsequent blows could shatter it. He was unaware that his former mentor had been hidden in forming hand seals the moment his movement was limited by the barrier tied to his body and the blows. Asuma-sensei, wear him out while getting rid of his weapons and force him into a position where he can't move over the water, then have Kakashi-sensei launch him towards the ambush position where the trap will be waiting. After that, hit him as hard as you can, were the Nara's orders. Water style, Water Dragon Bullet. The water beneath Naruto became a gaping mouth that tried to swallow the Jinchuriki as he rode up into the air. He was thrown violently upwards in a spout and could see the incoming threat of the water dragon that rose above him and came crashing down from above to drive him into the nearest solid piece of land and throwing up a cloud of dust, dirt, water, and stone while the Jinchuriki was buried beneath rubble. Naruto pushed the stone slab off of him and stood once again. His body screamed for mercy from the relentless assault of pain, cold, and wetness, but he stood on principle. The armor was gone now, and he didn't have the chakra to put it back in place. Even he had a limit without more time to recover from Kisame's damned sword earlier and constantly reforming the blades. I was hoping to save the fox cloak to deal with Pervy Sage. He coughed up blood as he summoned the collapsible spike he also liberated from Haiden, but beggars can't be choosers. I have to at least get to few. Hands burst from beneath Naruto. Earth style, not this time. Naruto stabbed the spike into what he was sure was the body of his former mentor and lightning surged through his body, and he howled in anguish. What he struck was a lightning style shadow clone. The lightning ripped his skin and burned it along with his clothes until he fell to his knees. Wood sprouted from beneath him, and he became trapped inside a rising tree that suddenly sprouted and held his limbs. He couldn't swing the spike with his hand from the pressure that threatened to crush his bones as it held him in place while he rose into the sky instead of sinking to the ground. Wood style, tree bind eternal burial. The man known as Yamato spoke before glancing at Kakashi. Senpai. Forgive me, Naruto, but it's over. He droned before finishing the hand seals of a fearsome jutsu. Fire style, the prominence. Fire sparked at the base of the tree before it shot up the trunk and roared as heat and pressure built to become a blaze. Once they reached the apex of their climb, the ground erupted in a pillar of fire that shot to the heavens and swallowed the tree and Uzumaki all at once. Naruto's mouth hung wide as his scorched body fell to the earth from the heavens as the roar of thunder from the skies lamented the Jinchuriki's fate. He hit the ground with a thud and stared into the darkened clouds as his breathing grew heavy and his flesh ached while blood dribbled from his lips. The monsters of Konoha, that's what the elite jounin who had come for him were. He could no longer hope to stave off the inevitable any longer. The simple wish he wanted fulfilled for the sake of his lovers and himself, a wish that he would have expanded onto others who needed a home free of some of the burdens of the ninja world as well, it would go unfulfilled. These men stood in the way of that. They would take him back to his place of suffering and rob him of his freedom and home. They would take few to that place. I won't let you take her there. The demonic coat flared and became a cloak, and a single tail emerged as he stood. Killing intent rolled off him in waves of malice towards his captors as a second tail immediately formed. He fell on all fours as the third tail was created from desperation boiling over his cloak. Broken bones fused and mended, torn and burned flesh was recreated through regeneration. His life was shortened so that he could fight for their dream and his own simple wish. Naruto unleashed a sonic roar to the heavens and a shockwave was released that threw back the earth, water, rubble, and even forced the elite jounin to back away before they were caught in the wave of destruction that left the area around him barren and inside a crater as the past hatred of the Kyuubi and Uzumaki became his shield and sword born of tainted chakra. Nine-tailed foxfire gathered in his mouth as chakra blazed and the jounin prepared themselves for the inferno with Yamato preparing to use tearing torrent and Kakashi using a water wall. Fire stra. Splat. Naruto felt searing pain enter his body and looked down to see his chest had been run through by a double-edged jian from below as a red mist dotted the air above him. Ku. A voice that Naruto would never forget reached his ears as the blade was withdrawn and one of the men he loathed next to the freak in the mask with all his being appeared from out of the ground behind him. It's such a pity, Naruto-kun, you fought well, but alas. Snake, bastard. Naruto weakly spat out as he fell to the ground while Kurama started to heal his wound. Could this day get any worse? I'd say this was nothing personal, but after you stopped Suzuki-kun and Tsunade's return, I'd be lying or a chimera jest. Before swinging the blade towards the Jinchuriki's neck, the jounin sprinted to intercept it but were overtaken by a blur of white and red. With Few, approximately 2 minutes earlier, pace. Few arrived at the secondary rendezvous point. Get Naruto, gentle step, twin lions. She was cut off as Hinata stormed in with fists shrouded in a chakra aura that took the shape of lion heads. Upon impact, the lions exploded and launched Few through the remains of a wall before Hinata followed her out. Boss lady, Pace exclaimed as he was trapped in a cage of buzzing insects. Any use of chakra or sudden movements and they'll close in. I would suggest not trying anything is the best course of action. Shino told the ferret. Water St. Few was interrupted from blasting the Hyuga with a water trumpet as a massive fist slammed into her from the side and sent her flying back into a pillar. Before she could recover, a large, round boulder that was Chuji Akamika slammed into her and plowed her through another series of ruins and rubble until she went tumbling onto the ground. NGH. Hugh weakly picked herself up as blood flowed freely from the scrapes and cuts on her skin while her left arm hung limply and broken. She spotted the female Hyuga coming from the side and created her water slicing blade to take off her head with her good arm when they both froze in place. She felt bound by some force, only to see something connecting to Hinata's shadow. Shadow possession successful. Shikamaru's shadow branched out and connected with both Fu and Hinata. Irika-sensei, the barrier. Irika flung 5 konoha with a barrier tag on them around Fu and a final one in the center with a chakra suppression seal given to Shikamaru by Jiraiya and clapped his hands. The chakra connected through chakra strings and formed a pentagon that hummed through the barrier. Shikamaru-kun, let me go, Hinata ordered while staring at the Jinhyura key from outside the barrier. Sorry, but you've been a concern, Hinata, and we'll have to address Tsunade-sama about a session with Ino's father. Shikamaru sighed as shadows circled Fu's body and 2 shadow hands began to creep towards her neck. As troublesome as this is, I've got my orders. There was a demonic howl as a wave of tainted chakra washed over the area, following a pillar of fire in the sky. It's over now, Shikamaru warned her. Jiraiya-sama will have arrived to seal off the demonic chakra, and we'll take Naruto back. I'll have to make sure you're unconscious, but I'll try to avoid leaving a mark. Let me go. The caramel-skinned, green-haired Jinhyuriki snarled as her pupils became compounded, and a green cloak graced her with a tail, only for the tag in the center to glow and absorb the greenish chakra and leak it through the barrier. W.H. Watts. Hinata's eyes furrowed at the woman in front of her until she spotted something flying towards the group. Shikamaru-kun, behind you. The Nara released his prisoners as Chuji grabbed him and ducked before a rain of crystal shuriken tore overhead. Fu kicked the konoha in the center away and ducked as the barrier was broken by the shuriken while Hinata backed away. The 2 young women prepared to clash after figuring out what had just attacked them when a jagged crystalline flower emerged between them and blossomed into a larger, translucent red flower of death that almost pierced them both if they hadn't rolled away. Nanabe Jinhyuriki, Kabuto arrived with a silent woman in tow. It's nothing personal, but it would seem your death is desired by Orochimaru-sama. I love Naruto, but when it rains, it pours with his luck. The Jinhyuriki donned her tail and wings to prepare to kill the invaders as her injuries healed. Ain't that the truth? Shikamaru sighed. With Naruto, the Toad Sage had finally appeared and was enraged as he delivered a kick to the ribcage of his former teammate and sent him backward. I came to seal off Naruto's demonic chakra before it could get this far, but it's the only thing keeping him alive. Jiraiya thought as he glanced at the Jinhyuriki and then glared at his former teammate. First Akatsuki shows up and now you. Ah, Jiraiya. The snake Sunin chuckled. I haven't seen you since after I tried to get Tsunade to heal the damage Sensei did before I killed the feeble old man. A chakra blade attempted to decapitate the snake Sunin but was blocked by his Kusanagi blade. The blade, said to cut through anything, did just that with the chakra and lashed out toward the attacker who deflected the blade at the cost of his trench knives having a deep cut through the metal. Well, if it isn't Sensei's son, if it's any comfort, I believe the feeble and pathetic old man died satisfied that his actions bought the village a few more. Yeah, the snake Sunin was cut off yet again as a bubbling arm of crimson chakra grabbed him and slammed him into the ground some distance away with the blade vanishing. Don't ever insult the old man in front of me. Naruto roared, and the malevolent chakra became a larger fist that pounded him and further enforced Jiraiya and the others away while he repeatedly buried the snake underneath the rubble. I'll kill you. Inside Naruto's mindscape, well now, it looks as though I might be needed after all. A dark voice chuckled while Kurama looked on impassively. Konoha, Tsunade sat with a radio in her office and a ticket in her hand for the lottery that would be announced in a few minutes. She was confident that Jiraiya and the others could bring back Naruto on their own, but just in case, the winning numbers are. The radio announcer called out the numbers. It matched the ticket. Every single number. She rubbed her forehead and looked over to the men at the entrance to her office. Get ready to use it. With Suzuki, they told you? Itaka said in a slightly lower voice that could almost be considered anger. Itaki, I almost went with Orochimaru because of what you did. Suzuki laid into his brother. I tried to kill my teammate because of you and go with someone who wanted to steal my body. I've still got the curse mark even if it's been sealed. I can even feel his chakra inside me and gathered at the seal. If they hadn't told me everything, I would have defected and turned against the very village you sacrificed our family for. Everything would have been wasted. What on earth possessed you to try and drive me to get stronger through hatred? Why did you constantly pressure me to try and kill you? Suzuki felt a warm trail of tears that had come down his face during his rant. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? Suzuki, our clan had fallen. Itaki told him factually. I slaughtered my family to prevent civil war on what I assumed to be the orders of the Hokage in order to avoid the total lives that would have been lost had the Uchiha followed through. I killed mother, father, even my lover at the time, for the sake of the village. I killed the minority to save the majority, a valid tactic that I did not enjoy but understood, and left as a missing nin to ensure our dark legacy did not come out to keep our clan's name clean. You didn't do it alone. Sasuke glared at him. Who was it that helped you? I cannot tell you. Itachi sighed. You cannot hope to face him as you are. I have seen that hatred can give one the strength to live on provided that one doesn't lose themselves in it. I did what I had to in order to ensure the village would remain stable in you, and I would like to get strong enough to come after you, to judge you for your crimes as an Uchiha. Sasuke shook his head. You do not force someone you care about to undergo mental torture and expect them to come out sane. Lose myself in hatred? I nearly fucking drowned in it. Itachi had no words on the matter. At least tell me why you're helping Akatsuki? You're an international criminal now. Even if Tsunade forgave you, they'd still call for your death. Sasuke stomped the illusionary ground. There's nothing she can do given the organization you worked for attacked Suna and possibly other nations. I originally joined to keep an eye on that certain person in the group, but Akatsuki's primary leader has a vision for peace and the eyes of the sage. Itachi closed his eyes. You haven't experienced the true terror of war. The endless bloodshed and depraved acts that were given form by this current system. I sincerely doubt the original Sage of Six Paths would have approved of what his guidance led to because of his two sons. Sage of Six Paths, what does a myth have to do with this? Sasuke asked. It is no myth, Sasuke. A crow emerged from Itachi's body and flew towards Sasuke and landed on his shoulder, before it melted into it like a hot brand being burned onto him. What did you attack? It placed his fingers on his head and poked him. It is the power given to me by my long-dead friend. I am not long for this world, Sasuke. That power. I pray you never need to use it. What do you mean you're not long for this world? Sasuke, Itachi said before vanishing in a murder of crows. Tell your teammates that Orochimaru has arrived to kill the Nanabi and Kyuubi containers and capture you. I shall wait for him to show an opening and do my duty not as an Akatsuki member, but Itachi of the Leaf. Sasuke found himself back on the battlefield and felt the point where his brother touched his forehead. Damn it, Itachi. Heading back to the shelter to inform the others of the situation, he wondered if Sakura had any more soldier pills to keep him able to fight. It was thundering and the sky would soon be ready for him to unleash the thunderclap if he had to. With Shikamaru's group, the light roar of thunder echoed across all of Old Uzashio, and a flash of lightning cast a long shadow in the face of adversity. The rain had yet to beat against the flesh of the seven gathered ninja and kunoichi. Lucky seven, how long until I can use my arm again? Fu mentally asked her tenant. I'd say about a minute or two while your wings and tail are in a cloak, Shumei informed her. Remember, you can't go any further, or you'll go to stage 2 and lose it, Fu girl. Hinata reacted first. As if an explosion erupted at her feet with no prior indication, she charged at Fu with her Byakugan ablaze as chakra scalpels shrouded her hands, and she ducked under the blade coming towards her before she spun on the balls of her feet and unleashed a strike before hitting the woman's cloak. 8. Trigram's Mountain Crusher. A powerful wave of chakra was unleashed against the Jinhyura Ki at close range and sent her into the distance as if she had been hit by Chuji again while the Hyuga gave pursuit. Hinata. Shikamaru called out to no avail. Damn it, Shino after her. Gurren, Kabuto addressed the woman behind him. Make sure the Jinhyura Ki doesn't escape. The two went after them silently while opposite each other. Shino had drawn several projectile weapons, and Gurren made hand seals as steel and crystal clashed. Irika-sensei, Chuji stared at the medic nin. Leave this to us. No, Chuji-kun, Irika told him. Ino isn't here to help with your famous combination. 3-on-1 is better than leaving you and Shikamaru-kun against him. I feel compelled to ask what you're still doing as a Chuyunin, Umino-san? Kabuto asked. While you are an exquisite instructor for children, your stats according to my research outdo those of Anko-senpai. By all means, you should be a special jounin at least, yet you only teach the basics to genin hopefuls. Regardless, I'd hate to deprive the fine children of Konoha of such a figure. Students need a gentle but firm hand to guide them into this world we live in. For that reason, I stay at my current rank. Iruka brought out a kuno. Besides, the basics are useful no matter the battlefield. Since you seem to have forgotten, allow me to give you a crash course. I learned all I know from a less gracious instructor. Kabuto tilted his glasses. But I guess I could use a reminder. Kabuto took off towards the trio and Chuji's pumped-up left fist was sent straight towards the missing nin, who leaped onto the back of the fist on his chakra scalpel-covered hands and severed the flexor tendons before he pulled out a kunao and threw it at the Akamika's head, only to have it intercepted by Irika's kunao. Shadow tendrils appeared from around Chuji's outstretched hand and attempted to run Kabuto through when he somersaulted backward and sent shuriken at the Nara in his family's crouching position. The first lesson is shuriken jutsu. The sound of slicing air and clashing steel was heard as Irika's shuriken intercepted his, and he charged the medic nin with 2 kunao drawn. Next is close combat. Kabuto drew a single kunao and met with him head-on. 2 clashed at close range before Irika rolled and shadow tendrils tore into the medic's body. The third lesson, diversionary tactics and planning. Chuji. Shikamaru called, and a massive right fist descended on the body from above with a sickening crunch that was overtaken by the sound of the ground being destroyed and hidden in a spray of dirt and dust. Ew! Chuji muttered as he felt the visceral fluids and blood that lingered on his hand drip when he shrunk it and left the remnants of the corpse in a crater. Well, that's one way to end it. Chuji, Irika-sensei, are you alright? Shikamaru asked. I can't bend my fingers in my left hand, Chuji answered. I'm fine, but... Irika trailed off. That felt too easy, Shikamaru muttered, and Irika agreed as he went to confirm the body's remains. Upon seeing the stitches on the face and remembering the report about the previous attempt on Suzuki before he tried to defect, they realized they had been played. It was the dead soul technique. Then where is he? Chuji looked around. I can't see him or sense him. Chuji, move. The Akamaki was cut off as Irika flung a spread of konoha at him that forced him to jump to the right, and they continued straight, where they were deflected not 3 feet from the Akamika's position. He's using the hiding with camouflage technique. Right, Irika-sensei's a tracker. Shikamaru turned to the direction the konoha were heading. Where? 3 o'clock to Chuji. The Akamaki picked up the direction and slammed his other fist on the ground. He missed as Kabuto jumped and flung konoha towards Irika, who dodged and addressed the Nara. 5 o'clock to me. Shadow sowing. Shadow tendrils lashed and rained down over the area as they hit warm pockets of flesh and pinned down the medic once again while blood flowed down the tendrils. Blossom. Shikamaru infused extra chakra into the tendrils, causing them to explode with more thorns and completely skewer the body that had just become visible. It's another corpse, he identified. Irika-sensei. Where is he? I'm not picking him up, Irika said, straining his vocal cords. That means he's under. Kabuto popped out of the ground with a konoha in hand and plunged it toward Irika's temple. The instructor raised his arm and felt the blade go through the muscle, only to be stopped by his radius and ulna bones as Irika kicked the man away. I must admit, I didn't know you were a tracker. Kabuto complimented him. Since you weren't labeled a sensor in the report, and the technique hid both sight and scent, that leaves only sound. Since I can't use the same tactic again and camouflage myself until you're dealt with. Kabuto pulled out a scroll and unrolled it, releasing 12 corpses that looked just like him. I'll show you my performance, known as Death Technique, Requiem Soul Play. The corpses lurched before dashing towards the group at a speed slightly less than the original Kabuto. Despite lacking the extra abilities of the original, their numbers and the control of the original made up for the slight drop in speed. They avoided the splintering shadow tendrils before splitting into groups of 4 and attacking the Konoha Chuyunin. Mortal wounds won't stop them. Take away their legs. Shikamaru's tendril skewered one that lunged at him, but the one behind it used its shoulder for support and jumped over them to throw a konoha at the Nara and force him from his position, returning the shadows to normal. The other 2 closed in on him. The Akamaki was having a difficult time due to having only one working hand. His multi-size technique was a hindrance because the chakra blades would bypass the fat and strike at the sensitive parts. He was forced to dodge or risk losing his other limbs. Irika somersaulted over one and planted an explosive tag on its back before pulling out a konoha and ducking under another chakra blade. He crouched and spun to cut the Achilles tendons to take away the second corpse's ability to stand and kicked it into the explosive tagged one before detonating it. He paid no mind to the raining innards as he contended with his other 2 enemies. The Nara and Akamaki may be Chuyunin as well, but Umino has more experience, Kabuto noted before glaring at the weak point. Chuji was a liability since he had to fight at close range against the chakra scalpels and wasn't nearly as nimble due to his size. He had the corpses change their tactics to overwhelm the boy until Chuji, the Akamaki, was swept off his feet by a blonde before he could be severed by 3 incoming chakra blades. She threw down several konoha with explosive tags and yelled before she got out of range with the Akamaki. Shuka, go. Shadow tendrils speared through the corpses and then through the pommel of a konoha with a tag and pinned it to the corpse as it went back through. They repeated the motion until they stitched them to the ground and the explosive tags were triggered on the 3 corpses. The rain of body parts and viscera colored the area. Let me see your hand. She quickly performed a diagnostic on it while Shikamaru had the shadows drive back the remaining corpses and noted the cut tendons before mending them and crafting a chakra splint over it. Don't use it until we can get you back to Konoha, or else they'll tear again. No. Chuji muttered. Why are you here? Suzuki-kun told us Orochimaru had come, so we're being split apart to each group, with Sakura watching the others who can't fight, along with Niji to ensure that no one can get to the injured while they're being treated, in Shizen-san heading towards Asuma-sensei's location with Suzuki-kun. What about Irika-sensei's arm? Shikamaru asked. It's not immediately life-threatening, Irika told him. You 3 are together so you can take it from here while I set things up. The instructor pulled out a smoke bomb and threw it down before he vanished to set up the finale. Alright, Ino stood with her back to the Akamaki. Let's show glasses our Inoshikacho formation. With few, 3 women danced as they were engrossed in the battle. Their battlefield was filled with crystallized clones of the Jinchuriki and the sound of clashing steel, crystal, and solidified water as the three of them tried to kill each other. Gurren moved. On both of her arms were crystal-style, jade crystal blades that were tinted light blue and flashed as they cleaved through the shadow clones before she lunged at the original few who thrust her water-slicing blade towards the woman's head. Her first blade deflected it upwards while the second came around towards the caramel-toned woman's face. Few stepped back, only to circle around and slash at the incoming Hyuuga that attempted to ambush her. The sharp edge of the blade clashed with a konoha, but Hinata was knocked aside using brute force as the cloak Fudan slammed into her using a chakra arm. Crystal style, wild shuriken dance. The moisture in the air around Gurren took the form of crystal and was sent towards the Jinchuriki before shattering into a rain of shrapnel that she couldn't completely avoid and scraped across her skin while she rose in the air. Chakra needles were fired towards both the crystal user and Jinchuriki. The crystal user dodged while Few's chakra tail batted them aside. The crystal user made several hand seals to ensure the green-haired Kunoichi didn't escape. Crystal style, growing crystal thorns. The crystal thorns emerged from around the battlefield and angled towards the Jinchuriki and beyond, before closing in on themselves to form a net with spikes that would impale her if she went further. Shino watched on in the distance while taking in the sight of the battle. He recognized that at the moment he would be unable to assist Hinata or stop the crystal user. The crystal user was the most dangerous person here. She managed to crystallize his insects along with the Jinchurikis when they tried to ensnare her. Yet, the Jinchuriki's beetles managed to make it through earlier when they were enshrouded in lightning chakra. Hinata's gentle fist mid-range strike passed through the crystal-style, crystal imprisonment wave when she attacked Few again with the crystal user as an intermediate. They all had one thing in common. I see. It's because they were coated in chakra. If he had enough time, he could breed his colonies to be immune to the crystallization process. That being said, he opted for a different approach and whispered to his colony before sending them towards the Jinchuriki to give the information to her. His reasons for aiding his target were simple, logical, and would benefit both parties. With Jiraiya, Naruto finally stopped wailing the corpse of the snake Sunin into the ground when what should have been the spatter of blood was soil-brown mud. Earth-style, shadow clone. Jiraiya gritted his teeth in the distance. A fucking shadow clone. He paused for a moment and thought, this is what everyone I fought before must have felt like when I used the same strategy. Irony's a bitch. Ku. I heard you loved to play tag with sensei when you were younger, so let's play, Naruto-kun. Follow the sound of my voice. Echoed in the distance, and Naruto gave chase to the soon-to-be-dead snake Sunin. Naruto, don't chase him. Jiraiya yelled in vain and prepared to chase after him when a strong gale from Orochimaru's wind-style, great breakthrough held him back. I haven't forgotten you either. Orochimaru's voice echoed. Until I've killed Naruto-kun, you can deal with a few extras. The ground beneath them upheaved in an explosion of stone and dirt as a number of massive snakes came to the surface and glared at the group before lunging. With Naruto's ears twitched. The bubbling chakra arm shot forward and slithered through the air as they tore through rubble in an attempt to snag and crush the snake bastard who had hidden himself. So far, there had been no luck, and every attempt failed. Where are you hiding? Naruto roared before the ground parted and a massive snake emerged to consume him. The cloak bubbled over and Naruto unleashed another sonic roar that exploded it outwards like a bursting balloon. The snake bastard was toying with him, and Naruto knew it. He growled and felt his anger begin to rise even further. For Tails, it would be enough to kill the snake. Realizing he would lose himself, Naruto shook off the thought. He had to remain rational enough to act off his thoughts and not instinct. I'm such an idiot. A smile etched its way across his face. There's no point in hiding it anymore. Chakra flared and consumed the area without restraint, merging with the air itself and becoming an extension of his body. A solid shape was not an option at Three Tails. Instead, it became an irregular mass of tendrils that touched everything within range, including the snake Sunin himself. Shaping the chakra around the Sunin, it became a box to imprison the snake. Naruto's claws flashed, and the air around the Sunin followed suit. Laced with chakra, they became an extension of the Jinchuriki's body and came down upon the box, which began to implode to be safe, with the intent to shred the contents into little more than scraps of flesh. There was a silver flash from the Kusanagi blade as it sliced through the shaped chakra, and the prisoner escaped while the ground around the former box was torn asunder. That was unexpected, but Kusanagi can easily cut through such a thin layer of chakra. Then I'll make it denser. The box shape was reformed to enclose the man, and then multiple layers were applied to slow the man down. The loose chakra floating around Naruto gathered in front of him and was pushed using the right chakra arm toward the layered prison as it became a thick box of compressed chakra. Kusanagi cleaved through the final layer and then swung towards the dense box. It's too dense? Were Orochimaru's thoughts before the blade was knocked from his grip and to the side as he was hit by the large object and pushed off his feet backward with the dense box of chakra the size of the snake bastard's torso. Rupture. Naruto flooded the box with the chakra from the extending arm and forced the tainted chakra to rupture in a massive explosion that threw Orochimaru skyward as the chakra arm branched into 4 miniature claws and grabbed his limbs. He dropped territory as he pulled the man towards him with great speed. Wind-style Naruto formed a grand raise-non in his free hand and exhaled a thick layer of wind chakra onto it from his mouth. Orochimaru opened his mouth perhaps to say something or scream for mercy, but it was too late. Grand Squall Raise-Non. The second layer expanded as it neared the Sunin and sucked him inside the sphere of wind towards the center. Along the way, he was slashed from all angles that bled and were severed into chunks that spattered on the ground as the main body of the Raise-Non slammed into the remaining torso and detonated. That probably wouldn't have worked if his skin was too hard to cut through, Naruto thought before he spotted a gleam from the Kusanagi blade and his chakra arm extended to grab it. This is mine now. Naruto eyed the sword before placing it in a body seal. He needed a new weapon anyway, and Kino showed him how to use a Gion blade before he left the 8 Spades. Maybe when all of this was over, he should visit the temple and undergo the trials. His ears twitched, and he jumped away as another large snake came from the ground. His chakra arms batted it away before he heard a familiar chuckle. Orochimaru emerged from the ground with a snake's tail from the use of his slithering mode. Now, Naruto-kun. It's not nice to steal from others. Naruto's chakra arms shot out to entrap the snake that slithered out of the hole, but he was faster and slipped close to the Jinchuriki. When he got too close, Naruto swung his chakra tail around, and it batted the snake away hard enough to break him into 2 pieces, that reconnected by a series of snakes. His tail reformed into legs, and he stared at the Jinchuriki. You have learned some interesting techniques and gotten better at manipulating your Baijuyu's chakra, Naruto-kun. Sensei would be proud if such knowledge had come from the village, but alas. Don't you dare speak of the old man to me, Naruto snarled as he prepared to form the wind variant of the Raise-Non again. What does it take to kill you, Kukiku? You'd be surprised the number of people who've asked that. Orochimaru chided him. You create an extra layer of wind to suck the enemy into the range of the main body of the Raise-Non. Once inside, the first layer of wind tears an enemy apart before hitting them with the blunt force and then rupturing. Granted, it isn't complete as it doesn't fully incorporate the element into the Raise-Non, but if I hadn't slipped out of my skin, it would have been painful. However, I imagine if I use a fire jutsu, the technique would run rampant and create a nice-sized conflagration. Good to know. A new voice entered as a giant frog descended in the form of the Toad Boss and forced both the Sunin and Jinchuriki to stay apart. On his head was the Toad Sage. I'll keep that in mind. The Toad Boss exhaled a ring of smoke. That you, Naruto, Toad Boss. Naruto addressed the large summoning with respect. It's been some time. A shame we never got that drink. The Ferret Boss spoke of a brand of human sake that you were fond of. I would have been happy to have supplied enough for your eventual reunion. Gamabuntas snorted. You know that old ferret? Naruto nodded while keeping his eyes on Orochimaru. I'm the current contract. The way things are going, you'll be seeing him soon. Jiraiya looked at his former student. Naruto, leave this to me. Screw off, pervy sage, Naruto told him. If you get in my way, I'll do to you worse than what Granny would do if I told her about your little visit to Nadeshiko all those years ago. Ignoring the fact he knows something that happened that long ago, he's still too short-sighted and allowing his anger to get to him, Jiraiya sighed. Don't make this any more difficult than it has to be. Tsunade and the Ichirakus already miss you, and if you die here, only a few people out of an entire village. Orochimaru shook his head in mock sympathy. Sensei really did a poor job in managing his successor's son's social status with the whole exposing you thing. Honestly, his trust of the people would have been the death of him if it weren't for me. The snake Sunin fell on all 4 and belched out a sea of snakes that threatened to swallow them all. The sea formed a wave and became a wall of death as each of the snakes opened their mouths and produced a copy of the Kusanagi blade. Formation of 10,000 snakes. Gamabunta leaped back to get some distance for a flame and oil combination and to avoid the poisonous fangs. Jiraiya looked on as his godson refused to move away from the impending death. His cheeks and stomach swelled as chakra gathered inside his body and converted into flames. 9-tailed fox fire stream. Flames roared from his mouth and expanded into a tidal wave of flames that surged towards the wall of death. Blazing scarlet flames consumed the snakes that were charred into coal and then turned to ash as the wave passed them by and descended upon the snake user. Orochimaru opened his mouth, and a large snake stretched out above the wave as it consumed his body and caught the bottom half of the snake, and began to race upwards. Before the snake could be completely consumed, the Sunin emerged from its mouth and made hand seals as he fell beyond the reach of the dying flames. He held his hand outstretched, and a sealing array was written in the air. Summoning. The snake bastard called his own boss summoning. Manda had appeared. With Shikamaru's group, not that I'm not grateful, but isn't this breaking one of Tsunade-sama's rules as her student? Shikamaru jumped before the corpse could slice at his jugular artery. He crouched, and his shadow split to entrap the several around him and pulled them closer together. Black Spider Lily. Chuji's my patient, I'm defending him. Ino stood back to back with the Nara and made her family's hand sign. Now shut up and watch my body, Shika. Two rushed in to take advantage of the situation by Kabuto's control when they suddenly froze and then started using their chakra scalpels to sever the limbs of the others that had gathered near the Nara. Mind transfer clone. Chuji, finish it. Shikamaru released his technique and grabbed Ino's body to jump away while she had the ones under her control to cut off the legs of each other. Using his undamaged hand, the Akamaike crushed the area with a massive fist to stop the corpses once and for all. So, this is the current Ino Shikacho generation style. Kabuto wondered out loud as Shikamaru sent shadows after the man. He avoided the tendrils by jumping back and smirked as he landed, only to freeze when he spotted 4 explosive tags around him on the ground. Sealed bomb square release. Trap setting is a basic that was taught in my class. That's the final lesson, consider yourself caught up. Iruka said to the immobile medic from behind a stone outcropping. Shikamaru-kun, if you would. Shikamaru connected their shadows and forced him to take a step, which triggered a deafening explosion that the person inside was unable to escape from. Kabuto's head fell to the ground as probably the largest piece left. Shikamaru noticed the stitches on the face. Another corpse. Shikamaru sighed. The real Kabuto must have been long gone when Ino showed up, since if she had taken him over, it would have ended then. But did I ever tell you that you were the best instructor in the academy? Yet you slept through my classes. Iruka deadpanned as Ino began working on his injury. The group then turned their attention to the clashing snake and toad bosses doing battle. With Pace, the snake boss. I have to go tell boss to get dad, Pace exclaimed as he saw the massive snake do battle with a giant toad, but was unable to move due to the cage of insects threatening to consume him. Water style, wild water wave. A wave of water batted the insects away and they writhed on the ground, wet. I'm all wet. Pace shook his body before looking up. Boss lady, I'm just a clone, she told him. Go home and tell your dad that Manda has appeared. I felt Naruto's cloak chakra from my position, and he's facing the snake boss right now, so your dad will need to be ready. But what about you and boss? Pace asked. The few clone patted him on the head. We'll be fine. The original me is going to help Naruto once she's done, since it took a lot of work to sneak out from the Hyuga and crystal user. Now go. K. Pace vanished in a small puff of smoke. With Naruto ran up and around the thrashing Manda's body with his chakra claws rending off bits of flesh as he tried to concentrate on which priority to take. The snake bastard had taken off with Jiraiya to fight to the death somewhere while the summonings wrecked the ruins further. Now the snake bastard was on his kill list for the old man, but he promised the ferret boss that he would help him get revenge on the snake boss. Naruto was flung into the air and Manda opened his mouth to consume the Jinjura ki while he squeezed the toad boss. Naruto bit into his arm on the summoning tattoo and let the blood flow freely as his chakra arms curved around to slam onto the top of Manda's skull and etch the summoning array. Summoning. The ferret boss dropped down on the snake boss and wielded a giant pair of deer horn knives. The impact was enough to free Gamabunta enough to leap away. Without hesitation, the blades descended towards the head of the snake boss. Die only to go flying with the ferret boss as Manda's tail came around and slammed him across the back. The snake boss flicked its tongue as the ferret boss was sent crashing into the barrier around New Uzashio and knocked back due to the rebounding feature. Well, if it isn't Deo. I haven't seen you since that time my kin ran into that daughter of yours, the eldest next to the axe-wielding one, I believe. Ever since then, I've had a small craving for Ferret's Grand Raisnon flail, a massive raisnon half the size of the toad boss and attached to roughly 100 chains that interwove as they trailed down to Naruto's enlarged chakra arm slammed into Manda's head from the side and knocked it into the ground, smashing the rubble beneath it. Get it in gear, ferret boss. The ferret boss fell on all fours after biting down on the handles of the deer knives, and they ran parallel to the ground. Desert ferrets resided in a hidden location in the land of wind and were adept at wind chakra as well, so he streamed wind chakra through the blades as he passed the lunging snake boss and cleaved a good gash into its side. Manda retaliated by smashing the Deo into the ground with its tail and came around to devour the summoning. The toad boss leaped down and plunged his blade through the snake boss's mouth and pinned him to the ground. That's twice. Nice work, Bunta. The ferret boss coughed blood as he struggled to stand with several ribs broken from the snake's assault. He looked over to Naruto. Did you get the seal you mentioned in iron ready? Naruto nodded and summoned a large scroll roughly his height from his body seal and spun while clenching the edge before he tossed it into the sky and it unraveled. Large black chains shot down in a circular pattern that encompassed twice the area the summonings took up and staked into the ground. They formed an ominous dark barrier that surged with his demonic chakra. Uzumaki Forbidden Seal, Isolation Encampment. Damn you, I'll remember this. Manda cried and disappeared in a plume of smoke, or at least he tried. I can't return. This is a forbidden sealing art that uses the owner's chakra to create a field that can't be escaped unless the ones feeding the field are incapacitated or killed. The condition is that owners can't move within the field under their own power, and they must remain within the encampment. It interferes with time-space jutsu so that summoning and reverse summoning are cut off as well, Naruto explained. The encampment field also consumed an unholy amount of chakra, enough that Naruto's three-tailed state had reverted to a simple coat. It was meant to be used in a large group to supply the necessary chakra, and often killed them. That was why it was forbidden. Although the Uzumaki had plans to make a miniature version to stop the masked freak as well as removing the no-moving rule. "I'll devour you all when I get free," the snake boss roared. The ferret boss pulled out a cigar and lit it with a match before looking at Gamabunta. "Hey Bunta, can you help me arrange a funeral pyre?" "Why not? He's been attacking my kin as well, and we've got debts to settle. We can drink to old times once this is over." The toad boss spat out an enormous amount of oil at the snake boss while the ferret boss tossed the giant match into the oil, and Manda's eyes went wide. "Burn, you son of a serpent!" Deo exclaimed and watched as the snake boss howled in anguish while the flames consumed him. The scent of cooked snake meat was tainted by the smell of burning oil and made Naruto's stomach churn before they made sure the snake was dead and dropped the encampment. Deo, Gamabunta looked at the giant ferret. "About that issue with Jiraiya and your last contract holder. The past is the past for now." The ferret boss took a deep puff from the cigar and released the smoke cloud into the air. "Vengeance at last, but it won't bring my little girl back. Regardless, thank you, Uzumaki. I'm afraid I must return to tend to these injuries, but I shall repay my debt one day, perhaps over a drink with Bunta here." Once this issue is settled, Naruto nodded. "We can swap stories over a drink. I always did like you, kid." Bunta lightly chuckled as the ferret boss disappeared in a plume of smoke. "You know, Gamekiki, the boss summoning was cut off by the sight of a giant 8-headed white snake emerging in the distance. With few water-style, archerfish, a jet of water was spouted at the crystal user who made a series of hand seals and a gleam revealed a thin layer of crystal covering her in her crystal armor. She then made another set of hand seals and touched the ground as the water washed off her armor. Crystal style, burst crystal falling dragon. The dirt, stone, and mud crystallized to form a crystal dragon that lunged towards the Jinchuriki that began to back away. 8 Trigram's Sky Palm. A blast of chakra nailed the Jinchuriki from behind and directly towards the dragon that opened its mouth to consume her. Fu fed the beetles in her cylinder a good amount of lightning chakra, and they darted out towards the dragon. Hidden art, flash, beetle dart. The insects shrouded in lightning rained down from above and impacted the dragon. On impact, they became small domes that radiated lightning before rupturing in an explosion that rained the shards of crystal down. Fu made several more shadow clones and decided to deal with the Hyuga while most of the clones fought the crystal user with assorted lightning jutsu. Crystal style, crystal needles. The moisture in the air around Gurren solidified into pink crystals and darted towards the onslaught of clones to skewer them before they could get in range with the lightning techniques. Before she could target the Hyuga and original, a black cloud of insects swarmed and were turned to crystal before she got back on task. Jade Crystal Prison. Gurren announced and light began to shroud the 2 women who were in close range. Fu substituted with a clone that was destroyed by a quick strike from the Hyuga, but Hinata was unable to move her feet. "Hinata, release chakra from all the tenketsu in your body," Shino yelled out to her before the light engulfed her completely. The Hyuga was frozen inside the crystal in a traditional Jayuken stance. Hidden art, hiding in scale powder. A cloud of powder glinted and became a bright flash that blinded Gurren until she heard the next technique being announced. Exploding water shockwave. A wall of water filled the entrapped space and rushed towards the crystal user, who sealed herself using crystal style, crimson fruit until the wave died down and rushed towards Fu as she panted on the ground. Fu crafted her blade of hardened water and swung the blade down, only to watch as the blade broke upon hitting her nearly invisible armor of crystal. Gurren plunged her hand into the Jinchuriki's chest, and she vanished in a plume of smoke. Shadow clone. The original Fu and a clone emerged from 2 of the numerous puddles next to her using the hiding in water jutsu while a third pinned to the woman. Blazing through seals, the clone made the first move. Water style, water prison. The crystal user was trapped inside of a sphere of water by the first clone while the second vanished and the original ran through hand signs and lightning strong enough to rip through stone arched from her hands. She looked into the sphere and noticed that the crystal user had a small smile on her face and made no attempt at doing anything. Lightning style, earth flash. Uwakameru, I probably won't be going to the same place as you are, but, were Gurren's final thoughts as the electricity finished her off in a death that even Fu couldn't look at before she dropped the jutsu. You switched with the clone while she was blinded, Shino commented as he watched the crystals begin to break apart. Thanks to his shades, he could see through the blinding powder. The footsteps of the Aberame inching closer put her slightly on edge. Even though the Aberame looked like a drug dealer, Fu had to ask, "Why would you tell me how to defeat her and help me? What was in it for you?" "Because, we seek to retrieve you alive." Fu pointed towards Hinata, who was freed from her imprisonment and fell to the ground unconscious and weak. "She has problems that stem from her home that we plan to address." Shino sighed. "Nevertheless, things have started to go out of control. Given that Orochimaru is here, he must be trying to kill both Jinchuriki and thus is targeting Naruto. Merely a temporary alliance to ensure that we can accomplish our primary mission by aiding in your survival. We don't need your fuse. Body pulsated and she coughed up blood. The imperfect seal was starting to malfunction. I used too much of Chumei's chakra. You seem to not be feeling well. Should I take it those are the after effects of using your tenant's chakra for too long? That's none of your business. I find you highly illogical, Fusan. Shino told the Jinhyuriki as he approached the downed Hyuga. You must realize by now that the odds of victory have waned for you and Naruto, yet you still persist in fighting us. Considering we are fellow insect users, I thought you would be somewhat more rational in your decisions, like my clan. However, it seems that emotions have overtaken your judgment. Let me ask you, why do you oppose us? Because you're trying to take Naruto back with you and are invading our home. Your home consists of buildings that can be replaced, and no people had yet to occupy it, Shino pointed out. Despite being heavily outmatched, you went out of your way to defend a place that holds little more than sentimental value to Naruto and could be rebuilt elsewhere. Well, weren't expecting you to show up. You sprouted her wings despite Chumei's silent warnings. What were we supposed to do? Why did you not flee when things went wrong or convince Naruto to flee? Shino stated. Abarame are familiar with guerrilla tactics, which you are privy to. The moment we stopped after the regrouping flare had been sent up, and we were occupied with tending to our comrades, why did you not use the opportunity to flee with him while your clones distracted us and you still had the strength to do so? The moment this place was discovered, it became a lost cause for you, I'm afraid. Akatsuki is on the island as well as Orochimaru. This place is no longer safe for either of you. Fu's heart skipped a beat. Akatsuki is here too. Yes. And despite having so many opponents that are S-class and after him, Naruto allowed his anger at the village to compromise his judgment on the matter to the point he picked a fight with people who had obviously been training to deal with him and endangered both himself and you let your personal emotions compromise your judgment by not pointing out how suicidal it was. Fu stomped the ground. I'm supporting Naruto. Yes, and well done, by the way. So far, all he has accomplished was to wound those who actually cared about him and force them to retaliate with force. It must be painful for people such as Jiraiya-sama and Kakashi-sensei to have to harm the one they see as family. To have someone who sees Naruto as a little brother be forced to order his return by extreme force must have weighed heavily on the Hokage as well. Fu was silent. Shino made his point. I must tend to Hineda's injuries, and I cannot use my remaining allies against you. While I could keep you occupied in your weary condition, Shino pointed to the giant 8-headed snake, there is a chance Naruto would be killed, and the mission would be a failure. You should take this opportunity to reason with Naruto before it is too late. Fu gritted her teeth and flew off shaking while nursing a growing headache from Chumei's chakra. I'm not responsible for this, am I? Doubt later, Fu girl. He had a point, we need to fall back. The Abarame may have been an enemy, but he was right on some points. They had no choice but to abandon their home in order to survive. Shino-kun. Hineda mumbled from behind him as he watched Fu fly off. Hineda, have you? The Abarame fell to the ground from a blow to the back of the head. Sorry, Shino-kun, Hineda whispered as she rummaged through his backpack. She pulled out several explosive tags and kunao before departing after the Jinhyuriki of the skies using her Byakugan to track her. I have to kill them. With Jiraiya, you haven't changed at all, Jiraiya. Orochimaru chided his former teammate in his 8 branches form. The Toad Sage avoided the heads as the Snake Sunin emerged from the head of the main one and lashed his tongue out. It wrapped around the man's leg and lifted him into the air. All your life, you've done nothing truly worthwhile on your own. Tsunade became the Hokage and has that method of healing that prevents her from dying on the battlefield. I rule Oto and gained immortal life along with Edo Tensei. He slammed the sage against the ground hard enough to leave a crater before lifting him up to face his executioner. You, on the other hand, have done nothing but age and travel while writing your low-class books that only appeal to the perverted. Even your students surpassed you. Just give up. You. Jiraiya spat toad oil in his eyes and pulled out a kunao to cut the tongue off his leg. Give up. He formed a raised non behind him as he turned upright and it expanded to an enormous size. Trying to make me give up. Gallant raised non. He slammed the huge jutsu into the Snake Sunin, and it consumed him as his body was assaulted from all angles by the spiraling sphere inside the snake's mouth. The other heads tried to devour the Toad Sage when Toad Blade cut. Gamabunta sliced through 2 of them in a pass, and the Toad Sage clung to the summoning's head as a Jinhyuriki inside a red coat of chakra slammed into another 2 with a wind-style, grand squall Raisnon that decimated the heads before he was batted towards the ground by a third head and made a crater as his coat faded from exhaustion. I've had enough. Orochimaru's roared as pale lightning crackled between the remaining heads to incinerate the giant Toad, Sage, and Jinhyuriki. This is my ultimate jutsu. The attack was about to be launched when a crimson, dreamlike blade pierced the Snake Sunin, and everyone diverted their eyes towards a flaming humanoid wielding a shield and sword. Itaki Uchiha looked on with bleeding eyes. Be sealed in an eternal, drunken dream. Sword of Tatsuka. The Snake Sunin as a whole was sucked into the liquid sword and drunken into the sake jug, massive form and all. Susanoo vanished, and Itaka fell on his knees. The Uchiha vanished in a murder of crows without saying another word while the others looked on, wondering what the hell just happened. Whatever, Naruto snarled at his godfather while creating another wind-style, Grand Squall Raise-Non and lunging with half of what was left of his remaining chakra. Now that he's gone, it's time to deal with you. Naruto, you really don't want to do this. Jiraiya spat flames into the technique, and it went out of control and exploded in the Jinchuriki's face to send him flying through some of the remaining ruins. Naruto, it's over. You've used enough of the fox's chakra to damage your body, and you're exhausted. Any further fighting alone will run the risk of killing you. Tsunade didn't want this, she doesn't want it to be this way, but you have to come back. Naruto picked himself off the ground and clutched his charred arm. I won't. I thought you might have matured over the years, but I guess that when it comes to the village, you haven't. Jiraiya shook his head in disappointment. Then what about the girl you're with? Think about her. This fighting could end with her getting killed or captured by Akatsuki. I won't go back, and I won't let you take Fu. He prepared to stand against the Sunin before a cloud of blinding powder flashed. Naruto. Fu grabbed him as she passed and took him into the air. We're leaving. Gamabunta rubbed his eyes and sighed. While we may be allied with Konoha, I won't help drag the kid back to that village. The toad boss vanished in a plume of smoke as the other Jounins, Shizun, and Suzuki arrived next to Jiraiya and quickly assessed the situation before Shino arrived nursing a headache and told them of Hinata taking off on her own and running off to give chase to the airborne Jinchuriki. With Fu, Naruto noticed Fu wobbling in flight and looked at her sweating in panting form. The rain had begun to drizzle, and a great flash of lightning was followed by booming thunder. Fu, how much of Chumei's chakra did you use? Fu didn't finish as her partially transformed wings dissipated, and she began to plummet from the sky. Naruto embraced her and landed on the ground safely before looking at the remaining ruins for shelter from the rain. The battle had wrecked the majority of old Uzushio by now, and the current portion they were in was the remains of the residential area. Naruto took her inside one of the broken buildings that still had 3/4 of the roof intact. Naruto, Fu whispered as he placed her against the wall. I know how you feel, but it's time we cut our losses. Fu. He checked the inventory of his body seal despite the aching he was suffering from the use of Kurama's tainted chakra. We didn't plan on running into two Sunin, bloodline users, clan members, and Akatsuki. We came here to inspect how the rebuild was going for 2 weeks. We've improvised so far given our circumstance, but they haven't lost a person on their side, not for a lack of trying, mind you. While you've been stripped of your weapons and you look like you were about to go stage 2, while I'm starting to feel the aftereffects of my seal's imperfection. Even you have limits, and healing as much damage as you have has worn you out as well. They've been working to keep us split up, and at this point, we've both been through too much to keep fighting and not go berserk and risk destroying the island or each other. I didn't expect this kind of crap to happen. I mean, honestly, where the hell did they find another wood user? I thought Granny was the last of the Senju line, and she usually smashes things instead. And I wasn't expecting a crystal user either, although I still think she wasn't trying too hard. Who stumbled as she tried to stand. Naruto grabbed her before she could fall over. Naruto, we don't have any other choice but to abandon the island for now. Look at us. Look at the situation. Assess it from a perspective outside ours or theirs. Naruto rubbed his forehead at her words, and his thoughts gathered until he drew a conclusion. Things don't look good for us, do they? No. Fu shook her head. Fuck. Naruto conceded. In the end, it was a pointless struggle. We should have fled the moment Akatsuki showed up, huh? No, the moment Konoha caught onto the new village, it was over. They would have stationed Umbu there until they eventually caught us. The Kulobai Jinchuriki could only laugh at his misfortune before his voice became somber. Akatsuki and Konoha know about this place now. We won't be able to come back anytime soon. Even when the threat of Akatsuki is over, 2 Jinchuriki would be too good for other nations to pass up if the information slipped out. It would be a repeat of what happened to old Uzushio. He slammed his fist against the wall hard enough to make it bleed while making a hole big enough to fit a person through and expose the falling rain. All I've done was get you hurt. I know you have an attachment to this place because of your mother and Mito, but... Fu hugged her lover and kept her hand on his bloodied fist. We can always rebuild the village somewhere else. Somewhere on another continent, away from the 5 nations. You're right, maybe I'll even get to see if Temujin kept his promise. Naruto pulled out the contact scroll from a body seal. I'll transfer the island ownership over to Kunna. It was only because of her that I learned a lot about how to get things in the village set up and got the proper channels to buy it. The research into the aeroponics and hydroponics systems from the land of spring and birds panned out, and the place has a decent soil deposit. It would make a great farming village then, and I could have her relocate the contents of the underground storage vault. Okay. Fu looked a bit worried about the somber shade his eyes had taken. How will we escape? You'll go to Suna alone via the parallel array. Naruto raised his hand before Fu could argue. I screwed up in judgment, but even if they catch me, I have safeguards so they can't control me through other means. That's why I altered Kurama's seal in the first place. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm sending you to Gaara. I've sent him a message just now telling him to get ready with a medic he trusts to treat your injuries and watch over you for me. What about you? I'll summon Pace with the little chakra I have remaining and tell him to have his father reverse summon me. Even if Jiraiya could weasel the location out of the toads, the ferrets would maim him for stepping foot on their lands. Once I've recovered enough, I'll go through with the body seals modifications I had tinkered with before this went down, plus I had some new ideas for utilizing my territory and seals, and then there's Akatsuki. I'll need to draw their attention away from you and Gaara. Naruto, you are planning to come to Suna, right? Naruto rolled up the scroll, replaced it in his body seal, and hugged her before reaching for her seal to activate the parallel array. Thank you for bringing me to my senses and fighting with me, Fu, and I'm sorry for dragging you through the mud with me. Naruto, answer my kunao landed next to them with an exploding tag. Fu's eyes widened as it became lit, and she forced Naruto through the hole in the wall he made before he could trip the array. Her eyes became compounded as Chume forced its chakra out of her as the blast went off. The rain beat against Naruto's back as he moaned from the shockwave of the blast. There was a buzz in the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's ears, and the world was blurred as he struggled to realign his body and stand. He felt liquid heat on the side of his face and wiped it with his hand to see blood, but it wasn't his. Kit, to your right, Kurama roared. Naruto shockingly looked over to his blood-drenched lover as the green coat of chakra faded. She was covered in patches of blood with stone fragments sticking out at various points of her body. Phew, Naruto rushed over to hold her in his arms and pulled out the stone fragments. Her pulse was still strong, and she was vaguely conscious as her dulling orange eyes peered towards him. Naruto's mind raced to think of what he could do. I am sorry, it shouldn't have come to this. If he had fled earlier, if he had just given up, if he had done so many things differently. Hinata looked on at his miserable form as the rain poured onto both of the Jinchuriki. She thought seeing the one who tainted the clan in anguish would begin to appease her. The voice screamed for her to finish him. Yet, why did it hurt to look at him? Hinata took a single step forward, and Naruto registered her presence. Seeing the explosive tags and kunao in her hand, his eyes became slits, and he snarled as he placed Fu on the ground gently. I will never forgive you, you damn Hyuga. Naruto lunged at the girl with a grand raise non in hand as wooden bindings emerged from below and entrapped him. A senbon dipped in a sleeping agent plunged into the Hyuga's neck to render her unconscious as Shizun rushed over to check on the fallen Jinchuriki while Naruto thrashed against his bindings. Yamato dashed forward to slip the necklace onto Naruto while he was unable to move. Inside Naruto's mindscape, Naruto was pulled into the valley that made up his altered mindscape for Kurama to roam in. Overcome with grief, he was on his knees and clutching his heart in pain. He took no notice when darkness gathered in front of him until it took on a familiar shape. Despite everything you've done, you still couldn't protect what you said you would. Naruto looked up at the form of an imitation that faced him. Who are you? Dark Naruto grinned like the regular Naruto would. I am a shadow. Your true self hidden beneath that mask of the forgiving clown you wear to make others like you better. Why am I here? I have to get back and what? Dark Naruto shook his head. One of the women you love lies dying now, and we couldn't even avenge her. Konoha has gone too far to be forgiven. Shizune can help her. Shizune might heal her, but then they'll take her back to the village. Then what? Will she be persecuted like we were? Tormented mentally and physically until she reverts back to how she was before she met us? Or worse, they'll kill her and take Chume. Granny wouldn't. The old hag ordered this. Dark Naruto grabbed his counterpart by the collar. She's the leader of the pack of wolves that's hunting us down now. We were never anything more than the village's weapon, and she seeks us back for that sake. That's not, it's. Naruto trailed off, unable to refute his own words that were hidden beneath the surface of his soul. Stop lying to ourselves. The words continued to echo inside Naruto's heart. She is the source of all that has happened to us. Yet we lie and say we hold no blame towards her. No more lies. Naruto was silent. I'll help you embrace the truth this time. Dark Naruto twisted the seal on Naruto's stomach and bleeding shadows flooded the plains that made up his mindscape. Kurama exerted a bit of his control over the domain that Naruto had given him by tampering with the seal and made it so the swamp stayed out of the plain area he was lying in as he watched on. Let's destroy the source of our pain. Everything this twisted ninja system has given birth to. The Hyuga will be the first, and Konoha with the hag, then the great nations will follow. Naruto became consumed by the darkness lurking in his heart, and the bleeding shadows began to creep over his body to consume him. It swallowed his body up to his torso slowly, and he began to sink into the dark swamp, where his consciousness would be forever suppressed in the bliss of darkness. He would no longer feel anything. No pain, no misery, no guilt, no false hope. In a trance, he resigned himself to his fate as Kurama looked on from his patch of untouched land. Is this all you were capable of, Kit? Is your own darkness too great for you to bear? Golden chains erupted out of nowhere and pulled the hopeless Jinchuriki out of the dark swamp. A form cradled him in her arms as Dark Naruto looked on until the figure emerged as a woman with red hair that flowed like fire down her backside. "You've gotten so big since I last saw you," the woman hugged him tightly and cried lightly. "You probably don't remember me since it's been so long, but my chakra was only able to appear if you needed it." "Humph." Kurama lightly scoffed as he watched the reunion. Kushina. Naruto. Kushina separated to look at her son's emotionless face when she didn't get a response. Before she could say anything further, the darkness in the form of her son made himself known. "Ah, mother." Dark Naruto slapped himself on the forehead. "We forgot that father sealed both of your chakra inside the seal." Either way, demonic chains erupted from his body and forced Kushina apart from her son. "We don't mind if you want to hang around as we have a few words for you, but don't interfere with us." What are you?" Kushina asked the darkness in the form of her son. "What are you talking about?" Dark Naruto looked slightly puzzled. "We are your son that you left to bear your burden. We are one and the same. I am his true self and he is my mask. We form the being known as Naruto Uzumaki." "No." Kushina shook her head as she looked at Dark Naruto before staring murderously at Kurama. "This isn't my son. What have you done, Kuwabai?" "Me?" Kurama snorted. "I've done nothing. This is all your son. The hatred, the rage, and sorrow, it tainted the chakra he took from me even further. The one controlling this body is the part of himself he's worked so hard to contain. Just sit back and enjoy the show." "In reality, Hinata, what have you done?" Shino wondered as he lifted her unconscious form and tried to apologize to Jiraiya as they looked on at the struggling Jinchuriki. "My apologies, I did not expect she would have attacked me to escape." Jiraiya shook his head. "Save it for later." Right now Naruto's skin peeled off and a wave of demonic chakra flung the Umbu wood user backward before he could use the necklace or slip it on. His eyes became sunken pools as the wood broke apart and the Uzumaki fell onto all fours. He howled a demonic roar unlike before, and the earth shook beneath him. "Shizun, get back!" Jiraiya yelled, and the medicnin grabbed her patient and jumped back before a pillar of darkness rose into the air and parted the clouds to stop the rain. The force of the energy release sent her flying as she cradled the injured Jinchuriki, and they landed on the ground, just out of range of the huge crater with the second stage Jinchuriki at the center. Shizun was partially stunned at the girl's resilience. If it weren't for the fact that Chume forcibly gave her a coat at the last second, her body wouldn't have withstood the close-ranged blast. She would live if Shizun could focus on healing her. Naruto. Hugh whispered as Shizun began treating her again. "Don't." But now a bigger issue had arisen as the dust cleared. 6 tails had formed along with a skeleton. The mouth of the skull opened and revealed the empty eyes as they locked onto a single target. Its first target was the unconscious Hyuga. "Shino," Suzuki called out to the Abarame from his summoning. "Get on now. He's going after Hinata. In Kyuzagakur, we've found it." Zetsu told their creator, who looked on in the distance at the castle-like prison. "The box of ultimate bliss." Kabuto witnessed his master, the only person to acknowledge him, be sealed by the Uchiha. That day he swore vengeance on the Uchiha brothers. Orochimaru's will would live on through him, and one day he would surpass his master. With Guy, the green beast and demon shark clashed after the beast unleashed his maximum entry upon the man. Both were bleeding as fists and jutsu met under the rain, until the cawing of crows caused Kisame to leap back at the arrival of his partner. Kisame Itaka stood between the green beast and demon shark with his eyes deactivated, and the dried blood trails obviously marring his face. "Our objective is complete. We're leaving." But Kisame shut up when he saw his partner sweating, obviously exhausted from his endeavor. Despite his love of battle, he acknowledged Itake more as a comrade, and their mission was complete. "Right, let's go." Guy flexed his muscles. "Do you think I'll let you escape?" Itake pointed to the pillar of darkness rising into the sky. "You have other issues to worry about, considering Naruto-kun has entered a second stage transformation. Have you forgotten your mission?" Guy stared at the two for what seemed like hours, but only 3 seconds passed before music recommendation, Reverend Theory, far from over, gate of joy open. A blue aura burst from his body, as 6 gates were unleashed. With a powerful leap that created a huge wave, he took to the sky and flew towards the battlefield. Kisame and Itake looked on as the green beast ascended until Kisame scratched his head. "He is really an odd beast." Itake closed his eyes and nodded. The pair then left the island. Guy's initial jump sent him nearly all the way back towards the battle beneath the single clear point in the thundering skies and rain, where he watched the 3 Chunin flee on hawkback. He bit his thumb and made a set of seals above his head, as he reached the summit of his climb. Summoning, a plume of smoke gave birth to a huge, red ninja tortoise, which looked around randomly until he noticed Guy beneath him. "You haven't summoned me for years, and then you do it in mid-air." Guy flipped upside down and chambered his legs on the bottom of the tortoise. "Ningame, I need to borrow your shell." "What? Wait, you better not." Guy kicked off the bottom of the tortoise shell and dove towards the Jinchuriki gone mad, while sending the tortoise flying sky high until he was a gleam in the sky. As he descended like a comet, he flipped upright as the friction from the air set him ablaze. Take flight, my flames of youth. The flames transformed into the shape of a blazing bird of legend, and he slammed into the six tails from an angle. The flames transferred onto the beast as Guy impacted, and the blood cloak was burning with the Jinhyura ki that was sent flying. Night Phoenix. A sonic roar was unleashed and wiped away the flames, before a sweep of the claw was enough to stir the winds into a nine-tailed fox twister that swallowed the green beast. Trapped inside the gale, he shattered the rubble that was blown into him with powerful strikes, while the six tails trailed its sight on the fleeing target. It dashed towards the pair housing the Hyuga on Hawkback in a feral manner, before it skidded to a stop ahead of them with a burst of speed, and threw its hands out to kill the unconscious girl. The lengthened hands of the arm boiled over and branched off, into dozens of blood and orange-colored arms that slithered towards the Uchiha and Aberame for their payload, in the clear portion of the thundering sky created by the initial transformation. Shit, Suzuki swore as he steered his hawk backward and further up. The arms climbed as well and began to overtake them, so the Uchiha used his bloodline to predict the attacks and narrowly dodge. But the trio were thrown for a loop when the fox's upper body emerged from a grouping of arms above instead of the bottom, and threw its arms out to attack from above this time. Wood style, wood spears. A group of large wooden outcroppings were sent into the sky above the Jinhyura ki, to reveal two Kakashis with lightning streaming through their hands, riding on the bottom using chakra to cling to the surface. They released their hold on the surface, and the lightning that ran through their hands connected. Lightning transmission. The chain of lightning cleaved through the arms, which fell to the ground and melted into a black mass. Armless, the beast reared its chest back and another body emerged from it. It stretched like it was made of rubber to cleave through the clone and original. The claws pierced the clone and the original through their chests, and a spray of red mist spattered downwards, before turning into lightning and arching through the cloaked body. The mad Jinhyura ki howled in pain as it fell to the ground. The real Kakashi popped out of the ground next to Yamato, exhausted and breathing heavily. I've got it in me for one last move before I'm spent, Kakashi estimated as he slipped a military rations pill underneath his mask and chewed. The six tails howled as it noticed the hawk getting further away. Its tails curled near its mouth. It reared its head back as positive and negative chakra gathered and took form. He isn't. Yamato looked on as the massive chakra began to gather together and form a dark clump. He is. It's a tailed beast bomb. Kakashi's eye took the form of Mangekyo. He centered his vision on the gathering tailed beast bomb, and the air started to distort. Kamui. The ball was sucked into another dimension as Kakashi fell to the ground useless, and a red and white blur sped towards the Jinhyura ki with a hellish black ball of flames. Sorry, Naruto. Fire style, great flame raised on. The six tails shot its tails out to impale the sage. They ran through his body, and mud appeared, but not before the sphere of hellfire slammed into the beast, while the original Jiraiya had summoned the elders to prepare sage mode. Driven back and set aflame once again, the beast was forced out of old Uzushio and towards the barrier, before it stopped itself by burying its tails into the ground. A demonic howl shook the earth as it grew in size by 5 times, and the skeleton expanded over the body. Muscles appeared and wrapped the bone to begin the partial transformation, as hollow holes in the muscle-bound skeleton had yet to boast eyes. Its tails numbered 7 tails. Shizun noted while healing Fu. The interior bleed had stopped, and the shifted organs from the shockwave of the explosive tag were back in place. Her eyes widened as positive and negative chakra quickly gathered with the enhanced form, and became a sphere that was swallowed. Naruto, don't. Fu muttered as Chume warned her about the radius of the attack, even if it weren't a direct hit. The fox's mass became denser, and it swelled, before it belched out a stream of light that flew above old Uzushio and towards the hawk. The light grew brighter as it closed in and parted the sky. The shockwave dislodged stone, rubble, and rock, and pushed a wave of destruction outwards. It threatened to bury them all. As Shizun looked at the incoming wave of death, she felt despair as she cradled Fu in a vain attempt to protect her. Naruto, do you intend to kill her as well? No. Fu weakly pulled out the last of the scrolls that Naruto had given her before the battle. Barrier. Use. Shizun unraveled it on the ground before slamming her palm into it and flooding it with chakra, and chains emerged to produce a barrier. Niji watched from inside the safety of Tenten's summoned shell with the injured and Sakura, while Irika produced a barrier of his own to protect the Inoshikacho, and the wood user created a wooden dome to house Kakashi and Asuma. Guy was nowhere to be found, while the trio above was batted out of the skies even though the hawk avoided a direct blow, and they fell from the sky to their deaths. If I die here, it was only because I failed to stop Hinata from crossing the line. Shino managed to wrap his insects around the unconscious Hyuga and Uchiha, in an effort to have them lighten their fall, but it would still leave them severely injured. Katsuya, grab them. A voice cried from the skies, and larger-than-human slugs jumped from below and swallowed the falling trio and hawk summoning into their soft, mushy bodies to cushion their landings. The shadow beneath the seven-tailed fox grew until it looked up to see a massive, whitish blob descend and crushed it. Jiraiya looked up in sage mode to see that the slug boss had arrived at the beckoning of its mistress, riding on top of her head. There were countless Minatos as he teleported around and attacked from all sides, batting the darkness around, before kicking Dark Naruto into the air after tagging him with a seal. A flash of yellow was seen as he appeared above the darkness and Rasengan him into the ground from above, and then jumped to his location for a second blow. Flying Thunder God, double Rasengan dance, I'll be back. Dark Naruto muttered as the second Rasengan slammed into him. The force of the blow unleashed a shockwave that wiped the swampland away, and it became green plains once again. In reality, chains erupted from the eight-tailed fox and bound it tightly, to pin it to the ground, as the body writhed while it shrunk, now that it was no longer under the control of Dark Naruto. Naruto was on his knees in Fu's arms, while she was upright unconsciously cradling him. His skin was greatly burned off and he was no longer moving. Oh, thank God. Jiraiya sighed. Ma looked on. Looks like we won't have to strain our throats now. Katsuya, get them. Tsunade told the summoning on her shoulder. Transfer the majority of my chakra to start regenerating his skin cells and repairing any internal damage. Yes, milady. The mini Katsuya on her shoulder transmitted the order to a larger division, as it prepared to take them into her body. In Naruto's mindscape, I am so sorry. Naruto got on his hands and knees, bowing with his head in the grass towards his parents and lover. I can't tell you how sorry I am. Kushina walloped him on the head, in keeping with her personality. Honestly, young man, you had all three of us worried. Kurama chuckled darkly as Kushina lectured him about attacking those he cared about, and giving in to his hatred. Minato was slightly more forgiving. Fu just looked at the two parents lecture their son as if they had never died. So, now that that's done, Kushina hugged her future daughter-in-law with Chume in the background. You're the girl my son nearly tried to destroy the world over? I'm his mother, Kushina Uzumaki. Fu blushed. I am Fu from Taki. She pointed to her tenant. This is Lucky 7, Chume. Technically, I guess I would be his main wife. Main. Kushina gave a quick glare at Naruto. Minato raised an eyebrow. Dude has two honeys. Chume added fuel to the fire. Fu girl is the main lover. The mistress is this hottie known as Kanna. Mistress. Kushina looked at him and her hair split into tails. Naruto raised his hands in defense. It doesn't go any further. I'm not pervy sage. Now, Minato held her back. I'm sure he treats them both well. Yeah, Naruto nodded. They're two of the most important people to me. As entertaining as this is, Kurama broke up the family moment. You two won't last another few minutes in the time of the mindscape, and in about 3 seconds the kid is going to be bound up by the large slug in reality. I'd rather not have to deal with the darker version of the kid again so soon, so if you could impart some words of wisdom or something so this doesn't happen again, I think we can do better. Minato rubbed his chin before whispering something in his wife's ear. She nodded before heading over to Chume, while he personally spoke to Kurama. I see. Kurama gave a moderate glare. You hope to give them a head start. I'm down with it. Chume's single tail reached over until it was above Kushina's cupped hands, and a drop of chakra fell into it. We'll use the last remaining portions of ourselves to purify this tiny amount of tainted chakra. Kushina's body began to fade. The amount is so small, the power gained will only last for a minute at the longest. It should be able to give you enough of a jump to understand what you'll be capable of, should you tame your hatred and the bite. Chume and Kurama's. Minato smiled as he shared the same fate as his wife. Naruto, I may have been a bad father for placing such a burden on you, but even if you don't want to return to Konoha, the will of fire still burns inside of you. Fu-chan. Kushina gave the girl a final smile. Look after my son and make sure he goes down the right path. As well as that other girl, you two are the ones who'll need to keep him straight like I did Minato. Hey, both the blondes responded. Of course, Fu bowed to the woman. Mother, father. I'm glad I got to meet you. Naruto, you aren't wrong about the system and world created from it, but humans are instinctively drawn to hate and fight. Minato warned him. No matter what path you take, it will be a long and hard one. I know. Naruto swallowed. About what the darker me said. I can't lie and say I don't hate you to some extent for your hand in my life, but I was proud to be your son not as the fourth Hokage, but the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, and I was happy you put everything on the line for me. All parents and children go through rough spots, but that's what makes us family. The older pair smiled and embraced each other, as they faded away in an uprising of shimmering particles, and left behind two small orbs of pure, untainted chakra that hovered near the Baijiu themselves. They were locked in a hexagonal prism with a seal lock on it, while Naruto silently wept at losing his parents a second time and Fu held him. Thanks, Fu, for everything. Naruto kissed her until Kurama cleared his throat. I only wished I asked the formula array for Hiraishin. Is that all? Kurama rolled his eyes. Between the current battles, I should have memorized the portion I've witnessed. It will not be enough to replicate the technique, but you may be able to implement it into the current formula you have. It's time for Fugirl and you to return to reality. Shumei wrapped Fu's portion of the chakra in its tail. The next time you return to our mindscapes, you'll be trialed by the chakra itself. The purpose will be not only to gain access to the smaller portion, but to learn the steps necessary to purify bits of it over time. You won't be able to completely tame the hatred that lingers in our chakra until you can tame your own darkness, Kurama snorted. However, should you manage to access this portion your overprotective parents left behind, it would be the first step and show you the path to walk. In reality, the Jinhyuriki pair snapped awake as the larger Katsuya division was on their backs. Take care of Konoha for me, Naruto whispered before activating the parallel array on her seal. Boundless Orange Step, version 2. Fu vanished in a flash of orange, as Naruto struggled helplessly against the encroaching slug. Naruto, stop resisting, Jiraiya told him. Even you can't go on any further without dying from a lack of chakra. Like you care. Naruto wheezed before the slug swallowed him completely. The light faded as his head was taken into the dark, moist space. It didn't stop you from leveling my home. Look at what you've done to this village for the sake of your. Naruto was cut off as he was completely assimilated inside the slug division. The slug inched its way to Tsunade and nodded. It is done, milady. Sorry, brat. Tsunade turned to deal with the injured and lead the team back to Konoha. She looked down to see the cracked and broken symbol of the Uzumaki, and sighed before leaving the destroyed village in her wake. I really am. In Tsunade, Gaara was in the private section of the hospital with Lady Cho, his siblings, and several doctors, who wanted to know what they were doing there with the Wind Daimyo. Naruto's message told him to get to a hospital and prepare to take care of Fu, among other things he would personally see to later on. There was an orange flash and Gaara's sand erupted to form a cushion for the falling figure that appeared. Fu wheezed as the world spun and she saw Konoha's blurred face. Before she passed out, she whispered 3 words. Konoha has Naruto. Well, Gaara looked towards the doctors, who were still recovering from the sudden appearance. Start treating her. They placed her on the treatment bed and got started overlooking her condition. Mission overview: S-Class mission to reclaim the Kyuubi container was a success. The primary objective of retrieving Naruto Uzumaki was a success, but the secondary objective of retrieving the Nanabi container, Fu, was a failure, and her current status is unknown. Several members of the retrieval team undertook severe damage, including Yamato and Kakashi Hatake, sustaining injuries and exhaustion that have left them out of commission for the next estimated week as a result of the unexpected arrival of Orochimaru and 2 of his followers, one of whom was killed, while the S-Class missing nin Orochimaru was sealed away in what was believed to be a permanent genjutsu by another S-Class missing nin, Itachi Uchiha, who vanished along with his partner in the aftermath. All members of the retrieval team have been sent to Inoichi Yamanaka for mental evaluation at the request of Shikamaru Nara and have found Hinata Hiwaga currently unfit for duty due to mental instability at the hands of several parties. Her status will be discussed with Hayashi Hiwaga at a later date. The developing village found near the site of the battle had been decimated, and the island itself has been declared off-limits to any and all personnel from Konoha until further notice. The Fire Daimyo has requested the presence of a high-ranking official from Konoha to meet with the Wind Daimyo and a high-ranking representative of Suna. Both parties will be expected to arrive within a week of this date. Current date is 3 days after retrieval, and Naruto Uzumaki has yet to awaken from a coma believed to be induced by the stress of the battle and unleashing 8 of 9 tails. All attempts to stir his mind awake with the Yamanaka clan's abilities are met with resistance caused by the Kyuubi itself. He is currently inside the Senju complex under watch, with the details of his arrival kept secret from all unnecessary parties. Estimated recovery date is unknown. Signed, the 5th Hokage Tsunade Senju. In the Hokage's office, the clan elders are more than a little upset that their children were brought in with enough injuries that a few would be out of action for possibly a month or longer. Shizune addressed her mistress. The council, both civilian and ninja, want some answers. Tsunade sighed. I'll personally talk to them in my office. I'm not calling a meeting nor am I informing those 3 council elders. And the remaining civilian council members, this isn't a civilian matter. Noted. Shizune nodded and left. Tsunade looked over to the windowsill to see Jiraiya there. Naruto, he'll forgive us, won't he? Jiraiya sighed. It wasn't the village this time. We personally oversaw his capture. We personally led to the destruction of his home with our jutsu, and dragged him back to his own personal hell. If no, when he wakes up, he won't be happy, to say the least. It's not too late. Tsunade tried to convince herself. I know he'll go back to being the blonde brat we all know and love. I just have to tell him I'm sorry and that it's for the best. We can repair the village. Tsunade, even Minato had a limit to what he could tolerate. Naruto's the same, Jiraiya told himself before lying to the one he loved. Maybe, but either way I can't do a thing about his seal without a few more days after the meeting. Naruto rigged it so that if I try to alter any of the seals on his body or place any on him, it would forcibly release the Kyuubi. I need a few days to come up with something to stop the cascading effects and fix the seal. In fact, the only reason it hasn't broken out is if I had to guess was because it doesn't want it yet. Oh great, we have a timed explosive tag, but we don't know when it will blow. Tsunade sighed. Anything new outside the village I should know about? My spy network has picked up that all but one person in the Demon Lantern Castle, aka Blood Prison, had been killed. It looked like a lot of infighting, but the one who survived stated it was the work of a genjutsu user with some kind of mask and a flytrap thing. They stole something, but everyone is keeping tight-lipped on it. Before any more questions could be asked, she left the village as a missing nin to pursue them. Her name, Ryu Uzesu, I think. Jiraiya shrugged. Also, the Kaze Cage, his siblings, the Wind Daimyo, along with a member of the 8 Wind Spades, were heading to the land of whirlpools. I had a shadow clone run interference and try to ascertain if the girl Naruto was with was safe, for his sake when he eventually wakes up. They both knew that Naruto would have trusted Gaara considering they first heard the rumors there. Neither party was stupid on that front. I take it that things went badly. Well, in more formal words, the Kaze Cage and Wind Daimyo told me to fuck off and expect to be paying off the damage to the island, which she owned, and she'd discuss it with the Fire Daimyo who will be expecting either me or you, and then the Wind Daimyo pulled a chair out of a bracelet and beamed my clone with it when I brought up Naruto's name and tried to tell her we had no choice. Tsunade nodded in understanding. She more than once used her desk as a makeshift weapon. A girl after my own heart. In the underground vault beneath the ruined village, Gaara, his sibling, Konoha, and the monk known as Kino, who dressed in a cloak with a thin long-sleeved shirt beneath it and pants, along with combat sandals, were gathering everything in sight. Naruto had given them access to it in order to retrieve the priceless artifacts and legacy of his clan before Konoha tried to use their former alliance with the village. It was a bit surprising to see someone as composed as yourself do something so unexpected, Gaara admitted. She wasn't always this mature. Kino shook his head. She had a thing for hitting people with chairs when she gets really frightened or angry. Hell, she used one on the guys who tried to kidnap her more than once. While Naruto and I were part of her guard, we helped her get out of the habit until she stopped. Konoha shook her head. He said I was no different than the pink-haired banshee that Temeri Dano maimed. That's how you know when she's frustrated or really mad, despite how calm she is. Naruto was actually the one who made that storage seal bangle as part of a gift for her birthday, although we weren't expecting her to load it with chairs among other things. Out of all the gifts, I loved this one the most. Konoha sighed as she recalled receiving it from him. Kankuro's eyebrow furrowed. Wait, you're a hot daimyo, with people kissing your ass and trying to get into your dress, no offense, and were lavished with the finest gifts, yet somehow a simple storage seal bangle won you over. It was the thought that counted, Konoha told her. I mean, between the minor daimyos and noblemen, one of the most personal gifts given to me was a simple thing, from someone who noticed my habits and whom I came to trust. Unlike their trinkets, it was actually practical and useful. Kino nodded sagely. I guess that may have been the reason I found him in your bed the next morning. Temeri and Kankuro both paused at the statement and looked at the blushing daimyo. Well, we knew each other for 3 months, I was nearly kidnapped, and he got stabbed a week beforehand, in case you were forgetting. Konoha crossed her arms and pouted. And then you accused me of leading Naruto down a road of sin. Monks are supposed to be virtuous. I could overlook it if you were wedded to him, but instead, the situation as it stands has him following the path of the perverted, and he left the temple's service only to be frolicking with you and another woman. The woman from Nades Hiko at least offered herself as his bride. You should be grateful I did not tell your father of what transpired. Only Naruto could give a woman who has everything a plain gift and come away with a victory. Gaara, when we get back in contact with him, maybe I can ask him for advice on what to get Matsuri. Still, Temeri changed the topic. It is a shame about the village and all that hard work. Gaara nodded. Naruto probably won't be able to hide here anymore when he escapes. Don't you mean if he escapes? Kankuro asked. No, Gaara answered. Konoha sighed. We'll rebuild the village above, and use it as an annex of Suna for food as well as plant cultivation, possibly even as a secondary location in case the village needs to be vacated. The contractors can be paid with funds from my account for anything Naruto didn't cover, and I'll have Konoha reimburse me. For now, let's just seal everything in this facility before Konoha gets any wise ideas until the upcoming meeting. In the hospital, Konoha, give me one good reason I shouldn't cancel our contract. Ningame roared at his summoner in a hospital bed, strapped down by orders of Tsunade so he didn't do something stupid, like try to train after opening the 7th gate. While the retrieval group as a whole had recovered to an extent, some of them had more severe injuries that required them to stay in the hospital. Among them were Guy, Lee, and Kiba. On the other side of the wall, and speaking in a lower tone, were Kiba and Shino. Kiba. Shino called him. I do not think Hinata would make an appropriate kunoichi anymore. Is this because she attacked you? Kiba scrunched up his nose. She said she was sorry, and she didn't do anything permanent. Hinata was apologetic for attacking me. Shino acknowledged. But she endangered the mission, for needless retribution of all things. She almost got herself killed because of the false beliefs her clan instilled in her head. Her actions led to the near full return of the Kyuubi, and the near death of all of our comrades, because she intended to kill them no matter what. We hold some of the blame for not doing what we could to help her, but after what has happened, I cannot say that she is well anymore. Really? Kiba rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, we dropped the ball, huh? What's gonna happen to her? She will most likely be disposed as the heiress, and possibly used as a political piece. Tsunade-sama probably won't kill her, but their clan will suffer both reputation-wise and financially given her actions were directly responsible for the damage undertaken during the mission, along with both of the Sunin, who have already begun utilizing their own funds. At worst, her clan may have her executed in silence. Kiba snarled at him. Me, her cousin, and her sister would never stand for that. Then she may be forced into an arranged marriage to solidify their clan's ties with the village. Shino pointed out rationally. Given that her figure is appealing to most men, I can imagine a few of the wealthier merchants who would partake in such a matrimony. They would probably seal away her chakra and be a Kugan to be safe. Fuck that, Kiba scoffed. Hinata isn't some trophy wife that some prick can just fuck whenever he wants. If someone put her down to that status, I'd kill them and become a criminal, Shino asked. Politics isn't exactly your forte, but I should have expected that reaction from you in a hypothetical situation. Nevertheless, if that's how you feel, then you should make the first move already. Huh? Kiba asked. Kiba, in the years we have known each other, you have always treated Hinata with more respect than any other woman, even the Hokage. I wear these shades, but I am not blind to matters of the heart. You and Naruto have that much in common, Shino admitted. You focus on Hinata as much as Naruto did Sakura but ignored her before he was banished. Don't compare me to dead last. Kiba shook his head. Even if he isn't the fox, he's a fucking traitor who tried to kill us when we only wanted to bring him back to a village that routinely tormented him as a defenseless child and burned down the village that was to be the new home of his clan. Shino stared at him. Kiba, we were following orders, but even you can see that we've wronged him on a personal level. He hurt Akamaru and tried to kill Hinata. We invaded his territory, and he gave us a warning, before which Hinata used lethal force in an attempt to kill his mate. The two were close both emotionally and physically, given how they reacted to the situation. Otherwise, my words would not have reached her, and my bluff would have been called. She would have likely killed Hinata before I could have stopped her somehow. I dare say I am a little jealous that Naruto found himself someone such as Fusan, and they found the Isle of Insects. I hope I can eventually tell my father that it does exist. Shino sighed. But the idea of introducing elemental chakra into my clan's comrades has spurred me into researching it. Shino headed towards the door before giving Kiba some parting words. Hinata was never brave enough to tell Naruto how she felt, and her affection for him was lost along with any chance of being reciprocated. If you wait too long to tell her how you feel, it may be too late. In the Senju estate, Suzuki sat in a large bedroom, next to a bed housing the unconscious Jinhyuriki. When the door unlocked and opened, he looked up to see Tenten walk in. The scent wafting from the box she carried was appetizing. I bought you tomato ramen. Tenten handed Suzuki the takeout and smiled wryly. Ayama's worried since you hadn't been back from the mission and says to see her soon. She also told me to give you a kiss on the cheek, but we'll let that slide unless you feel like rekindling the whole Sharinan vs Byakugan debate with Niji. Suzuki chuckled. Even I'm not sure I could take jealous, angry Niji. I think I'd like to see that. Tenten sat in the chair on the other side of Naruto's bed. Still, there are a lot of umbu around. It's because Tsunade isn't taking any chances with someone leaking information or trying to off Naruto after all that, Suzuki told her. There are umbu stationed outside, and they rotate in shifts, but the inside is off limits to all but Yamato, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Shizun, Niji, Shikamaru, you and I, and whoever else is personally escorted in by them, unless something is going down. So far that's only been Ino's dad flipping out because the fox kicked him out of their mindscape and threatened to devour him. Given how most of the evaluation showed that Naruto isn't everyone's personal favorite right now, can't blame her for trying to be safe. I'm allowed in because Tsunade-sama noticed from the reports I tried to reason with him, and got one of the more reasonable outbursts from him. Tenten tapped her chin. I believe she wants us to try and convince Naruto the village isn't as bad as it is. Good luck with that. Suzuki told her plainly. Those damn Hyuga elders managed to fuck with Hinata's head to the point that she tried the hardest out of all of us to kill someone she had a huge ass crush on for years. How the hell he didn't notice, I'll never know. She stalked him for God's sake, and now she's like the Ataki of the Hyuga. I'm surprised she hasn't killed off a few of them for the benefit of the clan at this point. Yeah, Tenten looked down. It's really sad when you think about it. I personally want Naruto to come back since I feel for him, and took an interest in seals, but to condemn him to a place with a past like that. Suzuki chowed down on his ramen before addressing her. We can't change the past, only atone for it. He'll be forced to stay in the village, but I'll let him have one of the houses in my clan's district, and if anyone gives him a problem, I'll take care of them. Comments like that keep people believing they placed you under a genjutsu to serve Naruto, or you're in love with him. If I hadn't run off, this whole damn mess could have been avoided. I was the unknowing harbinger, after all. Once I thought about that, it was hard not to be on his side. On the plus side, it allowed me to get to know Ayam. She's my kind of woman, and I've been on her father's good side lately. Plus, cooking is pretty interesting in the end. Tenten chuckled. Ah, the Uchiha prince has a soft spot for an ordinary civilian chef, as long as it doesn't leave this room, Suzuki smirked. I'd rather not have fangirls trying to burn down their stand. Tenten looked at the sleeping blonde. He probably won't let that whole destroying his village thing go, will he? Buildings can be rebuilt, but the symbolism will remain. In a way, we destroyed Uzushio a second time. Suzuki decided to change the topic. How are the others? Recovering, she told him. My own injuries are a nuisance, but at least I'm not stuck in a hospital like the three hotheads. Niji was sorry he didn't protect me better in his own opinion, and even bought me my favorite flowers from Ino's shop. He's surprisingly gentle when we're off duty. He seemed a bit distant last time we talked, Suzuki pointed out. And he stared at Naruto a lot. I think what Naruto said to him about the seal lingered in his mind, Tenten answered. Naruto could hand him the keys to freedom for the branch family. He's treated better because of how close he is with Hayashi and Hinata, but the other branch members aren't so fortunate. There's no way that the main branch will give up their control so easily, and legal attempts are out, so that leaves him to take more drastic measures. If I were loyal to the village, I would consider those words somewhat treasonous, Suzuki warned her before shrugging. But like I said a while ago, my loyalty is to the sun and alone. Just make sure that it stays between us. Thanks, but I have to ask, would you put them above your village if something happened? The village as a majority only sees me as their last living set of eyes barring my brother. They haven't earned my respect and only attempted to coddle me. The majority has kissed my ass, and it does nothing for me. At least you have some worth with a clan name, you're invaluable to the village. They don't want the Uchiha name, only the Sharingan, that's why they give me whatever I want. The Uchiha haven't been accepted in the village fully as anything but breeding stock and weapons. Sometimes I think these eyes were more of a curse than a gift to the world. Since we're being honest, it wouldn't matter if I died at this point, Suzuki told her. They've already collected several semen samples from me, and have them under lock and key. Only Tsunade, Jiraiya, I, and Shiza know where, and they're only accessible with Tsunade's permission or mine until I'm killed. Tenten looked stunned. Why tell me then? Why tell me that your boyfriend is having possibly treasonous thoughts? Suzuki shot back. Because you can be trusted, you've proven that. Same with you, Suzuki shrugged and changed the topic back to relationships. So, that distant thing, does that include the bedroom too? Tenten blushed. Suzuki, we all know you two have been going out for years now, Suzuki waved her off. Next to you two, only Shikamaru and Temari are a solid pairing. Chuji and Ino are a possibility, providing she quits being a fangirl. Maybe Lee and Sakura too, but she really isn't in my good books lately. Well, I'm not sure about Shikamaru's relationship anymore. Tenten took out a bottle of water and sipped on it, to soothe her dry throat. Ino weaseled out of Chuji that Temari said for him not to contact her for a while. There were no obvious words, but we all know it was because of the mission we were on. Shikamaru acknowledged that it was a risk when dating someone from another village and would simply wait for it to blow over, but he seems a bit more quiet than usual. They'll be fine in time. Suzuki nodded sagely. He's too impassive, though. He should show a little more backbone in front of her brother once things smooth out. Submissive men are nice to some women, but they have to be hard at other times. Tenten raised an eyebrow. Advice from Ayam. Inside Naruto's mindscape, Ayam-chan and Suzuki. Naruto muttered from inside his mindscape field. Just because his body was in a comatose state didn't mean he and the fox couldn't hear. How the hell did that happen? We are going to destroy those samples, right? Kurama asked the blonde. No more of those damnable eyes should come into existence. I think I draw the line at killing off unborn children willfully, Naruto told him. He'll be useful in the end if I can get him on my side, but I think I'd feel guilty about using him like a cheap kuno. It's that type of thinking that goes against my mindset. What about the whole Hyuga crush thing? I couldn't give a damn. Naruto said plainly. Hinata may have been a sweet blushing girl who stalked me with a crush and I didn't notice it, but that also means she watched me with those all-seeing eyes go through hell and did next to nothing to help. The old man couldn't be everywhere and watch over me, but she could have at least alerted him. More importantly, out of everyone else from Konoha, she tried to kill few numerous times. Her clan may have fucked with her head, but she was the one who crossed the line, and quite frankly, who both she and I were in the past no longer matter. I'm starting to think Niji might have had the right ideas about the main branch when we first fought. You humans and your clans and politics. We've learned so far who is watching us, who I'm not going to maim when I get out of here, and that I might have some plans in the future involving Niji. I did say I'd change the Hyuga for him when we first fought. Naruto sat in a lotus position, but it depends on how loyal he'll be to Konoha. He's a jounin, so he'd make a good spy for my new plans. You'll still need somewhere to gather the rest of my kin, Kurama told him. The village you were planning will not suffice anymore as a haven either. I know you are somewhat soft-hearted, but for the love of my old man, don't forgive the old pervert and hag for that with just a few words and ramen. The sight of all your hopes and dreams for the future burning because of your godparent and distant relative is a major bitch slap. The monks always taught forgiveness and patience, but then again I wasn't a good monk, was I? Naruto commented while in a semi-meditative state. He was never very good at the meditative portion of his training until after his first year at the temple, and that usually dropped him into his own mindscape, where the fox would bug him until they got along better. His shortcomings were obvious, and he was supposed to address them back in iron, but he was captured prematurely. His blades weren't sharp enough, his feet weren't fast enough, his senses were too dull, and his body had yet to undergo the modifications he planned. Future plans for spying, and civil wars among the clans aside, Kurama lowered the sealed ball of untainted chakra in front of Naruto. In order to break this seal and access this power, you need to be able to face your darkness on your own. Time in the mindscape can be altered so that you can take as long as you like, but remember, if you take too long, your body won't move properly when you need it. Right, Naruto nodded. We recover our wounds, I access the chakra, get out of Konoha, check up on Fu and Pervy Master, and meet up with the ferret boss to have that drink and catch up on old times with Toad Boss. Take this seriously, Kit, Kurama warned. To defeat your darkness, you must stay your heart and accept it for what it is. Your parents will not protect you this time, nor will your mates, or I. The only advice I will give you is to think back on the positive and negative events in your life, and see them for what they are from an unbiased opinion. Do not lie to yourself to feel better or hide anything except the positive and negative. Naruto nodded. I understand, is that so? A voice came from the ground in front of Naruto. It darkened as black ooze bubbled up and took the form of his darkness once again. Dark Naruto sat in the same lotus position. Can you really face yourself? With Fu stood face to face in her mindscape with her own darkness. How is it fair that Naruto has shown his darkness to us but we've hidden ours from him? I haven't hidden from him anything. Oh? Does Naruto know how Suien taught us how to use our jutsu by practicing on targets he was supposed to execute? How we ignored their pleas for mercy? Or how about that time we manipulated those insects to infest all of that bakery's food overnight since they didn't sell to us, and claimed to Shibuki that we didn't? The baker's business suffered because he called our leader a liar. Watching him defend us to make up for his father's mistake of dooming us to a life where we could never be happy was so amusing. That's a lie. Fu argued. I've never taken advantage of Shibuki like that. No, it's the truth. I am that part of you that resents your fate as a kunoichi without a choice, the first Hokage that began our fate as Jinchuriki, Shibuki's father, and Shibuki himself for allowing us to suffer. I am your true self. Admit it, we would like nothing but to see Naruto under our feet and worshipping the ground we walk on. Naruto is so tender when he handles us, he can't even see that he's been woven into our web. Isn't that why we play the sweet little Jinchuriki that Naruto has to save? No. Fu took a step back. That's not true. Naruto gets so attached to those who show him kindness and affection, isn't that why we slept with him the first chance we got? To make him feel attached to us in a way that he could never escape our grasp? After all, who else would love a demon container like us? Shut up. Fu clenched her ears to stop the words, but they entered her head regardless. We want Naruto all to ourselves, and yet we have to deal with the woman who came first. Dark Fu's eyes narrowed. That bitch is a problem. Her hooks are too deep into Naruto. We could solve that easily by introducing her to our carnivorous friends that we've neglected for too long. Fu fell to her knees as darkness engulfed her mindscape. She's not my enemy. She became our enemy the moment we met her in person. We thought we could compare to her before we had seen her. That was why we were so eager to meet her, to establish that she was second to us in nothing. But the curves on her body, how mature she was despite being near our ages, the things she did in bed, how much she knew about Naruto. Dark Fu gritted her teeth. She has us beat everywhere but the battlefield, and then she had the nerve to claim that she would support us. That's. Fu struggled for words. We have to resort to taking as much of his attention as possible and smear her name in mud. Even when he confronted his dark side, we only cared if he loved us, to make sure we were his everything. We allowed the Nanabe to claim that other woman with the title of mistress, when we were the ones who threw ourselves at him like a slut. If Naruto knew the real us, he would never look at us the same way again. Shumei watched on as Fu was being verbally bitch-slapped by her own darkness. The line between love and romance is lust. Love may tame the darkness, but that's only a portion of it. Love is the most powerful positive emotion, a potent medicine to cure the infection of hatred that taints my chakra, but even the best medicine can make poison. In this case, it's jealousy. You have to truly believe it and trust in others as well. You aren't alone. Don't lose yourself, Fu girl. In a cave somewhere, well, that was more difficult than I anticipated, Pain admitted. Hitting the demon was trying without all 6 paths. Toby shrugged. The original sage even had difficulty dealing with the demon before the rise of modern ninjutsu, until he mastered his fear and killing intent. Is there a reason in particular we needed this boy? He pointed towards the pale boy that came out of the box. Satori, by taking control of the medium, we have control over the box which made Kusagakure a feared military power in the past. We simply toss whomever we desire into it, a few days of maddening insanity and corruption, and we have a loyal warrior to start building an army. Pain looked at him. You mean berserk men that only know how to attack after being driven beyond all hope or salvation but death? Toby shrugged. I feel that to be a line too far and unproductive towards peace, says the man who runs a terrorist group of criminals and currently manipulating corpses as spare bodies? Toby countered. By the way, I noticed you haven't modified any of those Jinchuriki bodies yet for your outer paths. What do you plan to do with them in that case? That does not concern you. Toby shrugged again. Very well. Now that Muku-kun is under control, I will go and retrieve the 9 tails from Konoha while Zetsu gets the 7 tails. After that, I'll work on returning a bit of his mental facilities and layering some genjutsu on him so he can at least function on his own. The ceiling statue was damaged, it will take time to repair itself, now we'll have to hold off on the ceiling so I'm going, the masked man said before his body disappeared. If he unleashes the Kyuubi and Konoha somehow destroys its body, we may be stuck waiting longer. Nagato trailed off in aim with Konan next to him. They would have to deal with Toby soon enough. Their visions of peace were too different. Konan nodded. Shall we have someone follow him? Yes. Send Itaki. Would that be wise? Itaki is not long for this world with his illness. He seeks to die by his brother's hands, and I am sending him to his death. I already knew that. However, he knows my way would lead to peace and believes in our goals, and he has yet to fail us. He may die, but his sacrifice will serve a purpose. It will turn his brother against that man if he cannot kill him. Konan had to agree somberly. He and Kisane got along so well. I imagine his death will hit him somewhat hard in the end. Itaki was one of the few I told my plans to since he knows pain, and understands that my way is the quickest to peace, even if not the most moral. The god of shinobi and savior of the world were titles held by the original sage of 6 paths, but by the time this is over, I will be known as the devil of the shinobi world. N.A. Konan caught herself. Pain. The world will know pain, fear pain, and loathe pain, and through their hatred of pain, peace will reign, if only for a short while. Nagato sighed and closed his eyes. I wonder if Yahiko would have agreed with the path we've taken sometimes. If only I fully understood the power I possessed before his soul was sent to the pure world. Konan reached out to touch him, but recoiled her hand. She had caused him enough pain. If only she had been stronger and hadn't been caught. That reminds me, while Itaki is there, should we give him another target? I believe he would agree that Danzo needs to be eliminated. Nagato nodded. The path to peace was always paved over corpses. Let it be done. With Hinata Ne-sama, Hanabi entered her sister's room and looked at the scroll in her hands. She only caught a glimpse of the instructions. What are you studying? Since I most likely will be removed from the ninja corps for my actions, I thought it would be prudent to find another path in life. With the Byakugan, I can assist in the medical field and become a renowned medic, instead of a kunoichi. So, you're doing this for the clan? Yes, Hanabi-chan. Hinata smiled gently at her sister. She was glad Hanabi didn't try to read further into it. After all, it would be hard to explain why she was reading a scroll on the technique that she was learning. The Kyuubi had to die and couldn't defend itself, so now was the time. All for the clan.